بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. Dear brothers and sisters, first of all, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all.
وعليكم
We at
السلام ورحمة الله.
Education First are delighted to welcome you in our comprehensive training, which aim to build the capacity of non-for-profit organizations, NGO, or third sector, as it is called in different terminologies used for the non-for-profit organizations. At Education First, we appreciate the good and hard work you provide to feed the hungry, to provide safety and security to those frightened, to provide means of education, to fight disease, to increase awareness of people, and to save the planet, to create peace between communities, to fight bad habits such as alcohol and drugs, and much more good works that you do in order to provide the humanity with good work and good actions. This training is an initiative to convey our appreciations and to share with you the wealth of experiences and knowledge of distinguished experts, and to share also some of the experiences that you have. It's important to seek knowledge and invest in our personal development as individuals and organizations. In that way, we can ensure that we can do our tasks effectively and achieve long-term sustainability. When we had the idea to run this training, we wanted to run it with small numbers, 25 to 30 participants, and also to focus in specific nationalities or Eritrean organizations. But we work with non-Eritrean, and we found interest from our colleagues and friends as well. Thus, we decided to open it up, and we found overwhelming applications, and thus we tried to accommodate all the participants. I could tell you that the applicants and participants exceeded over 120. Thus, we had to make rearrangement for so many of our initial preparation, and we went back to our lecturers and speakers, and we explained to them the situation. As a result, thankfully, we really appreciate their cooperation as well, that in the last minutes, they have accepted to try to accommodate the need and to make some amendment and change to the materials that they could provide. We really appreciate that. We did our best to accommodate all the applicants. At the same time, also, when there are amendments in the last minute, maybe some of the materials are presented maybe in such a way our speakers maybe they don't like, or I could say maybe they have preferred way, but we will do our best, all of us, and we will work together to make this training worthwhile and to have an impact on you individually and to the organizations that you serve. Without any delay, our first speaker is Dr. Naser Hag Hamid. In the brochure you saw Dr. Naser Hag Hamid. He has been working with non-for-profit organizations for a very long time and in different capacities. and he was the CEO for one of the largest organizations, over 3,000 employees, and operating over 30 countries. Also, he has got a Master of Business Administration, MBA. So, Dr. Nasruddin, inshallah, he will have 3 or 4 sessions with us, and he will focus today on working with people. Dr. Nasruddin, the platform is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulullah. How is everyone? And I think it's Brother Abu Umar, when he mentioned some of the trainers have to adjust their material and work with something that they're not comfortable, is me. Okay. Okay. Anyway, inshallah, we will work together, and inshallah, you enjoy the training or the presentations, and I look forward as well to engaging with you tomorrow and the day after. I think the introduction has been done. So can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's clear. It's visible.
Okay, alhamdulillah. In terms of the lecture format, we're going to be flexible. We will take questions and answers as we go along, not only at the end of the session, but feel free to ask. I think best be is obviously share your questions with Abdul Qadir in writing, but I don't mind even if you speak as long as you have a permission. So we'll try to put it like 30 minutes lecture, 20 minutes Q&A, and then take a break because online training is very tiring sometimes, looking at the screen for a long time. So you can take a break. You're from different time zones, so you can maybe have prayer times as well, depending where you are. And then inshallah, we resume again to our second and third session. But both myself and Abdul Qadir, we will be flexible in terms of the format. The other thing I wanted to think is obviously because we have a large number of participants, we cannot do group exercises. And if we take it out to break rooms and come back, it will take ages. So instead, I have slightly modified the group exercises to make them self-reflection. So it will be best if you have pen and paper next to you when at times I will ask you questions. Write them down. You do not necessarily need to share them with anyone, but you can also reflect and share anything you want during the discussion. That's the best way to learn, is either group exercise or do self-reflection and answer the questions. Some of the questions might seem to be hard. I'll give you time, a few minutes at a time. Try your best to answer those questions for yourself, and you do not need to share them if you're not comfortable. But if you want to share a reflection of what you have written or what you've learned, then you are welcome as well, inshallah. Okay, so today's session is we have 2 parts. One is called managing oneself. The other one is managing individuals. And this is part of the managing people program. Tomorrow we will have managing teams, inshallah. In terms of the objectives, we aim to have a stronger understanding of how we manage ourselves and then improve the way we manage others to get the best out of them. It's important, if we cannot manage ourselves, if we don't know ourselves, if we do not have good self-awareness, then there is no way we can actually even manage others properly. So, you know, and it has to start with ourselves. It has to start with ourselves, understanding ourselves and managing ourselves. So quickly, please have some rules here in terms of what we call Chatham House rules. You may freely use information that you hear in this training, but do not reveal the identities. So if some people share some personal experience, please keep the identity of the individuals confidential, but you might want to share the information as long as you are able not to identify the individual. Be respectful and considerate of others' opinions and contributions. I expect different people will have different views. There is no right or wrong answer. And as a result, please say your views, but respect the views of others. And while you're not speaking, please make sure you mute your mic. And I think it's obviously the host will also help us with that, inshallah. So let's start with managing oneself. So to manage oneself, as Peter Drucker puts in, is that you have 6 simple practices you can put yourself. First of all, try to understand what are your strengths. And then find out how you work, how you contribute, and then what your values are, your ethics, and where do you belong, and what can you contribute. Once you answer those questions, you're ready to put your personal goal in place. Eventually, anyone who doesn't have a personal goal then is deemed for failure. Going through first, what are my strengths? Many experts say focusing on your weaknesses is the wrong thing to do, especially if your weaknesses are technical skills but not behavior. If it is a behavior, you have to fix it. You have to amend it. Obviously, if you happen to offend people, then obviously you need to learn how to be respectful. But if they are technical skills, you are better focusing on your strengths than trying to focus on your weaknesses. Because if you're extremely weak in some of the technical skills and you try to strengthen them, you will not become an expert, not even an average performer. But if you focus on your strengths and then even hone your strengths to even be better, then you will be an expert in that area. So, and one way of doing and identifying your strengths is obviously you can get feedback from individuals, but we tend to be obviously look for weaknesses when people give us feedback rather than strength. The best way is to have a self-feedback. A self-feedback is wherever or whenever you make key decisions, you write down what the situation was, how we came to that decision, and what outcome you expect. Write it down in your journal every time you make a key decision. Come and revisit your journal every 6 to 12 months and see whether the outcome you anticipated was the outcome that you received or it was different. You will learn from this practice over 2 to 3 years all about your strengths. It doesn't come overnight. We all think we know our strengths. Sometimes we all think we know our weaknesses, but we do not have a structured, a systematic way of learning what our strength is. So to do so, keep a journal of all key decisions and the outcomes that you anticipate, and then compare your anticipated outcome to the actual outcome. What you will see over 2-3 years, there is a pattern that you are good at certain areas, analyzing them and making decisions. And this pattern will help you then to look at and say, okay, I'm great at doing X, Y, Z. I'm great at reading people. I'm great at analyzing complex issues and so on. And what you will find is also your weaknesses in certain areas, because not every single key decision you make is going to be a successful one. And that is a part no one will tell you except yourself. That is a part you need to write it down. You need to revisit it. Knowing your strengths, that means knowing your weaknesses and then bringing somebody else to help you in your areas of weakness where you do not want to spend more time just to become even like an average performer. I quote Musa alayhi salam when he said, Rabbi hulul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli, because he was not very eloquent in speaking. But then in another ayah he said, يعني about Harun, huwa afsahu minni lisanan, his brother. He said, okay, اجعل لي وزيرا من أهل هارون أخي. I want the support from my family, Harun. And the reason is he is better than me when he is speaking, when he is communicating, when he is presenting. Huwa afsahu minni lisanan. He's much more eloquent than me. And this is the area most of us do not recognize. It's an area, especially when you come to a position of leadership, we do not want to be vulnerable. We claim to know everything. We claim that we can do everything ourselves. My advice to you is no. There are areas you're not good at. There are areas, whatever you do, you will not improve. Get somebody else to do that job for you. Focus on what you are good at and let others do the areas of your weakness. Now, there is a difference between area of your weakness and your area of ignorance. As a leader, sometimes you might have to know multiple things, especially if you're a manager, a director, a CEO. You might need to know a little bit about human resource, a little bit about finance, a little bit about legal, a little bit about programs management and project management, and so on. Those areas is not your weakness, it's the area of your ignorance because you have not been exposed to. Those areas as a leader, you should have a minimum knowledge, not to be skillful, not to be an expert, but a minimum knowledge. So you know, as a leader, when you're leading others, you know their background, you know where they're coming from, and you can even understand their strengths and their weaknesses. To give you an example, if you deal with engineers, not to offend some engineers here, but sometimes, okay, engineers, they admit sometimes, they say they are very bad at dealing with people. Human beings are so complex, they know they don't understand them. Engineers are trained to be very systematic, very logical, very analytical, okay, and human beings are emotional. And engineers, they're trained not to deal with emotions in the first place. These are the things we'll say as an engineer, you need to know a bit more about HR and about managing people if you want to lead at your area, okay? You do not have to be an expert, but you have to deal in those things. And so on. So we can talk about HR people who are not good at numbers. They say, look, numbers are just enough. We are not bean counters. We are people of people. We manage people. We deal with people. We are very good at, managing people. That's all great. But if you don't know anything about finance, or if you don't know anything about project management or legal, and you are a leader, try to understand some of those areas. Not to be expert, as I said, but at least to understand how things work. Okay. So one way of doing this, trying to identify your strengths, and I will give you a couple of minutes, is actually to try to answer those questions. What am I skilled at generating? Okay, what am I good at? What am I good at really? Okay, and many people never had this exercise to do themselves. But think about it. What are you good at? What are you skilled at generating? And the next is, what abilities do you need to enhance in order to get to the results you want? There are certain areas that you want to even improve. What are they? Okay, what are the abilities? Now, it could be your strengths, but you want to make it even better. If you have strengths in so many areas, but you want to focus in some than the others. Then look at what unproductive habits are preventing you from creating the outcomes you desire. We all have some sort of habits that really we can make without them. What are they? Okay. And how are they preventing us from creating the outcomes you want? And then once you write down what these unproductive habits are, what can you do about them? What can you do about those unproductive habits? Take a couple of minutes, write it down. This is for your own sake. You do not need to share it with anyone. When I run these sessions with groups, actually they share it in their own groups and they give feedback to each other. But here we have a large number. So we will leave it with you to just for a self-reflection, write it down, and then we'll move on, inshallah ta'ala. I'll give you 1 or 2 more minutes, but everyone has their own way of reflecting on those issues. Okay, so I hope you're all okay. We will move on, inshallah, but I will take first Ustad Ramadan's question. If I get it right, he said you pointed out in terms of strengthening or enhancing our weaknesses in the technical skills and in behavior. مش كده في الأخلاق والأشياء التقنية والفنية مش كده دكتور أستاذ رمضان؟ Yeah. Technical skills are addressed through training. They are training. Obviously, you can get trained to do certain things. If you are, say, a programs person, you want to do proposal writing, report writing, Okay, and if you're a finance person, you want to do better presentations, financial reports, and so on. These are training. You know, you can get skills through training. When it becomes out about our behaviors and attitudes, this is more about coaching. Now there's a problem with Arabic coaching. الترجمة بالعربي coaching عمرها ما ضبطت معنا. على كل حال, coaching is almost, I think the best one I would say is like تربية. When you have somebody senior who can give you advice, who can tell you how to behave and monitor you and give you feedback. Now, your colleagues, your work colleagues, your family members, friends can also give you feedback. But generally, and I'll talk about feedback later on, generally, we do not receive feedback nicely. We seem to be always defensive when somebody gives us feedback about our attitudes and behaviors. So it is best to have some form of coaching or a mentor that, or like murabbi, who can actually advise you and help you how to improve your behavior. Understood?
It's clear. شكرا جزيلا.
عفوا إن شاء الله تعالى. بارك الله فيك. Any other reflections? Anybody wants to share anything or want to ask question before we move to the next session or to the next point? Okay. The other thing that you need to learn is how do you work? In what ways you work best? Okay. Do you work best as an individual or with teams? Okay. How do you learn? Do you learn by reading, by listening, by doing? There are many ways of doing things. And one of the things that we are really bad, especially when you hear about successful leaders and we hear about certain individuals, we want to copy them. We want to be like them. But we might not be like them. Our strength and the way we learn, the way we work best, it might not be like the others. Some are great as team workers. Some are great as individuals. I recently did an exercise, not this one, but a different exercise. And one individual said, I thought I was a team worker, but my analysis are coming in that my weakest point is a team worker. And her colleague told her, listen, you're okay to work with a team, but you prefer to work on your own. She said, yes, that is true. He said, that's why your analysis is showing that your team working points are low. Okay, but they have strength in other areas. So these are the sort of things, and there is nothing wrong with it, obviously, as long as you are not being disrespectful and other things. But if you prefer to work on your own rather than with a team, that's your strength. Do you prefer to learn through reading or listening or by doing? Now, one of the things that people think is, okay, you know, if you read some of the articles, you know, Bill Gates reads 2 books a week, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you try to read 2 books a week, and you start struggling, and you're saying, what is happening? Well, maybe you're not a reader. Maybe you're a listener. Maybe you're a doer. Okay? You're not Bill Gates. Okay? You're not Jeff Bezos or whatever it is. Okay? Or you're not any other influential leader that we hear and people talk about nowadays. You are who you are. You need to understand your areas of strength and how you learn. I had my own practical things. Obviously, at my age, I thought, why should I read books, hard copies, printed? Why can't go online and read on Kindle? And I love technology. My background is IT, but then when I start reading books on Kindle, I did not enjoy them. And I do not even get the information as much as I would if I take a physical book and start reading it. So eventually I decided to dump Kindle and I start buying books again to read them. Okay, because that's my strength. My strength is some people enjoy reading on Kindle online and they're fine with it and they will take that information. I don't. I have another colleague that I work with. He said to me, Naser, your strength is that you read books. I like to listen to books. Okay, you know, audio tapes and what they call podcasts and whatever it is, audio books. That's fine. You don't have to be like me. I like reading. You like listening. And when I try to listen, I just wonder. I cannot focus. So I just ignore it. I'm not going to listen to audiobooks. I subscribed for audiobooks. I canceled it because that's not my cup of tea. So this is something you have to know about yourself. How do you work best? How do you learn best? Okay. And based on that, Do not try to change. Improve at what you are good at. If you're an excellent reader, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. If you're an excellent listener, go and get your audiobooks and listen to them. If it is something practical, go and work in places where it's sort of practical things to learn, to improve. There is nothing magic about reading or listening or doing practical things. There are minimum things you will have to do reading or listening, that's fine, but I'm talking about as general that most of the things you do. Another aspect you have to answer is, what are my values? Many people think they know their values, but many of us never sat down, even write down our values. If I tell you write down 10 of your values, and then I tell you cross out 7 of them and you only keep 3, you will struggle. But then that is where it comes. You need to decide which one is more important than the other. And the way you look at it is, if you wake up every day in the morning and you look at the mirror, is that the person you want to see? Is that the person who is doing such and such work? You work in a humanitarian field. Sometimes there are challenges with funding and you want to satisfy your donors. But if you tell the donors the reality, they will not fund you again. What would you do? Would you fake the report? Try to play with the report? Withhold the report? Don't tell them the challenges? Because if we tell them the challenges, we will not get the funding again. But what is important for you? The money or the ethics or being honest? Yeah, but I will be ashamed because it will be a failure of my organization, of myself. So your reputation is more important than being honest. Write it down. That's fine. And look at yourself every day. Say, the most important thing for me is my reputation, regardless what I say to people. Then that is fine. But if you think, no, my reputation is not as important as being honest, okay, I'll be honest, even if it means initially my reputation will be damaged because I'll be seen as a failure, then do it. Yes, and that's the question. What do you see as your important responsibilities for living a worthy, ethical life? I talk to people, I coach people, some of them tell me, I don't want to work in this organization anymore because of such and such behavior. That does not resonate with my values. This is not with me. I cannot fit in this organization. I don't belong to this organization. Remember, your values do not have to be identical to your organization's values, but they have to be largely similar. They have to resonate. They have to be very close. If they clash, you have to decide where you want to belong. Because if you work in an environment that you're not happy because of your values, your performance is never going to be excellent all the time. You will struggle because the passion is not there. The motive is not there. And if you're not motivated, you're not going to work. Okay? So if the values of your organization do not resonate with your own ethics, then your career will be likely to be marked by frustration and poor performance. You're not going to do it. It is best to move on to find an organization where your values are similar to the organization's values. Feel free to raise your hand or to ask questions, because I'm going to move on to another part of the session. And that is to say, how do you contribute? It's another area of your strength you want to know. You need to decide how you can best enhance your organization's performance. First, ask what the situation requires. There are many people who are best suited as advisors. There are many people who are best suited as decision makers. Some people make decisions very quickly, very good, but they need people to advise them, and they listen. And some people are very reluctant to make decisions. They do not like to face tough decisions, but they're very good at analyzing and giving advice. And what normally sometimes happens, CEOs, senior leaders who are very good at making decisions, they tend to put their deputies or the second person in charge to be someone who is a good advisor, someone who has good analytical skills, who can collect information and advise them. What happens when the CEO or the senior leader leaves the organization or moves on? Their deputy becomes a leader and they fail because they do not know how to make decisions. They are not good at making decisions. They are very good at giving advices, analyzing situations. There's a book called the Peter Principle. They say individuals are promoted from their competency level to their incompetency level. I'll repeat it. Individuals are promoted from their competency level to their incompetency level. So we are good at something, we get promoted until we reach a stage we are not competent. We become a failure. I was talking to a gentleman a few days ago. He said he had a friend in Yemen and he was head of programs, I think at Save the Children or World Vision. And he always wanted and wished to be a country director. And he eventually got a position with another organization to become a country director. He worked for 2 years. And he said, this is the most frustrating and awful job I've ever had. He basically hated the job because he was good at programs. He was able to lead the programs team, design projects, implement them, deliver reports. But when he became a country director, which is largely all about coordinating, dealing with people, dealing with finances, dealing with challenges, he hated it. He just wanted to quit. So he did not know what he was good at and where he is best contributing until he got to his competency level. Well, we don't have to wait. If we know this issue, we can analyze ourselves. I know people who refuse to be promoted to director level. They said, this is not my cup of tea. This is not my area of my strength. This is not where I will best serve the organization. So it should not be all about position. Yes, he can get promoted, he can go higher, but he might fail. Stay where you are at best, strengthen your strength skills or areas, and work to better contribute. Yes, based on your strengths, your work style and values, you ask the question, how might you make the best contribution to your organization efforts? Not where the position should be. And you are the best person to know about yourself. I read Peter Drucker, he wrote in his book that he used to be, and I didn't know until I read that part, he used to be an investment manager in London. And he was very successful. But he looked at it and said, this is not where I want to contribute for life. And this is not my values. This is not my working style. I want to help people. So he moved on to management and he became obviously a management guru and is very well known. So he switched his position, even though he was making a lot of money, because that's not where he felt he can contribute most. And I think he was right, because he's been successful in what he's been doing. Okay, last but not least, you are responsible for relationships. The responsibility for relationships lies with you first. Usually, when there is a breakdown of relationships, we blame the other side. So yes, deal with individuals with respect. They are also human beings, okay? They are individual like you. Give them respect, deal them with respect. And another part for responsibility for relationships is managing your boss. Many people think managing is all to do with people below you, your direct reports or called subordinates. No, you also need to manage your boss. How does your boss works? What makes them tick? What is their strength? What are the areas of their weakness you can help them with? How do they learn? Okay, do they learn by doing, by reading, by listening? I read a story where a CEO was very good at reading and loved reading. And he demanded from his assistant all the time, all the reports have to be written, come in tens and hundreds of pages of reports, and he used to read them and make decisions. When the CEO moved away and then another CEO came in, the assistant continued to produce the same amount of information in writing. And the CEO thought this assistant is absolutely useless. The CEO said, this assistant is wasting his time producing reports. I don't read them. Understand how your boss learns, how your boss works, and then manage them. And this is the part many people ignore. Your boss needs to be managed as much as you manage your direct reports. Like I said earlier on, depend on others by leveraging their strengths. You cannot do it all. You have areas of weaknesses. There are other people who have the strengths in your areas of weaknesses. They're expert in it. Bring them in. Create a strong team to lead your organization. Take responsibility for communication to avoid personality conflicts. It's your duty. As I said earlier on, conflict only happens when there are misunderstandings. You also play a role in creating that conflict, that miscommunication. So you've got to be careful how you communicate, how you talk to your people, okay? How you listen. Communication includes talking and listening, okay? And you have to take it as part of your duty. And organizations are built on trust, not force. Those who try to force their way in organizations, they eventually fail. They eventually get resistance. Or when they move on, okay, they find out they have not created any leaders because everybody was scared of them and they were just following instructions without thinking. You have to build trust so that people can grow in your organization. Opportunity comes with responsibility. It is up to you to keep yourself engaged and productive during a work life. No one else is responsible for your own personal development other than yourself. Even if you work in large organizations where they spend a lot of money in training and development and in coaching, it is up to you how much of that opportunity you take to develop yourself. Maybe even some of the development that is provided by your organization might not be suitable for what you want. Go and get it outside. No one is responsible for your own personal development other than yourself. Last, the implication is clear. Only when you operate from a combination of your strengths and self-knowledge. Self-knowledge here means how you contribute, your values, your ethics, that you can achieve true and lasting excellence. Any questions, discussions? Mustafa Adam, تفضل.
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. Just I want to share and also to ask a question after that. That is when it comes to how can I contribute. I saw some issues related to this subject, and it is like I'm a good salesman or the best salesman among my group.
Yeah.
And then due to that, I'm promoted to a sales manager.
Yeah.
A sales manager in an office, and I manage the salesmen. And this is just because I know I'm a good salesman, but because I'm promoted to a sales manager now, I got a good raise in my salary and other benefits. And so how would this, is it then my role to say no and then to be deprived of this increase? Or is it the role of the management who is giving, instead of giving, for example, an increase while a salesman, instead of just raising my salary and just enhancing me to do. I mean, more and more. I'm just given the salary and increasing the salary. And then I'll just be a little bit relaxed in my office, and I have just to control the other salespeople. So how do we balance this thing?
Yeah, very good point. It's very similar. Thank you, Brother Mustafa. It's very similar to what I said earlier on. Now, not every good salesman is a good manager. And I think we have to identify, especially you as a leader, when you're trying to promote people, you got to understand, first of all, the job requirements for a salesman is different for a sales manager. Okay, and if this person happened to be a very good salesman, but meets also the personal qualities required for a sales manager, that is fine. If not, you might have to find someone else who takes that position. And you yourself as a salesman, maybe you can become a senior salesperson and so on if you think that being a sales manager is not your strength. Sales manager might mean less interaction with customers, more interactions with salespeople, more interaction with management above you, more planning, more budgeting, and that might not be your strength. And it's a very good example where sometimes we actually use it in training. He said, not every best salesman is actually a good sales manager. So you have to identify yourself. What does a sales manager require? And what qualities are needed? And do I have them? Will I enjoy the job? Obviously, everybody wants more money to be a sales manager. But what you realize that you might not last long as a sales manager. You might be miserably a failure. And you have to move on and find another job. Instead, look at yourself and decide whether you have the skill sets required to be a sales manager.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, next, anyone else who wants to ask questions? Obviously, we cannot see everyone, so let me ask the audience then. Have you come across, you personally experienced that where certain people were very good at their jobs, and then when they moved on, they got promoted, they failed because they didn't have the skills required for the new position?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh. I can hear you.
Yeah, I think we have experienced a number of that sometime in our organization where you will realize if one gets promoted faster than they have developed the skills, you are likely going to see some forms of failure.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So yes, let's talk to Walid. Mustafa, I will come to you. Walid Ali, just give an opportunity to those who are. Walid Ali, تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام.
I'm Walid Ali Hassan. I'm an Eritrean living in Cairo. I'm working in Nahda Foundation. Our work mostly depend on education or formal education from the kindergarten to grade 12. We have got around 230 employees and 2,700 students. Yes, like Dr. Naser mentioned, in some of the employees, we had an employee who were a best teacher or a senior teacher. He was good at his work. He was doing his level best, and we saw that this is the person who deserved to be a leader in this group. At that time, we were looking for a supervisor, and unfortunately, when we hired him, he was missing some leadership skills, and also he had weak communication with the administration and a lot of things. So we have got this experience in our school where it took us, it gave us a hard time in that time to train him and give him some advices until he reached to be a good director or a good supervisor. And also other people who we hired them from outside, they were not having experience in leadership skills in this school, not in other, either were good or best in other departments. But when they came to school, it was hard to them to manage the academic programs or the school programs. Also, we had some people who we hired them from another departments in the student affairs, but they were facing a lot of problems on handling or dealing with the students. So as an HR manager or HR director, I have a lot of experiences related to this. So this point have a lot of examples. Thank you.
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. Barakallah fiik. Ustad Mustafa?
Yes, thank you. Actually, when I raised my previous point, what I meant was because it is something that I practically saw in my previous organization, like a good salesperson is promoted to a sales manager, and then he accepts, of course, this the new post because the remuneration is attractive, so he would tend to accept the offer, but then he will not continue. I mean, for long, as you said. So how could somebody balance this issue? For example, continuing as he is as a salesperson, or receiving the new remuneration also with the other benefits, and just waiting. Maybe I can be successful in this new post, or always people do not tend to think that I'll fail, but I will just be I mean good at that as well.
Yeah, Ustad Mustafa. Okay, a couple of things. First of all, look, the individual themselves, they have to realize what their strengths are, where their weaknesses are. Okay, and also the organization, when they are promoting an individual, they need to identify the skills that's required, and they need to support them. Okay, it might take some time for coaching and mentoring. Like Ustad Walid said, if you have someone coming from outside the organization, what support do you provide for the individuals to say, actually, you are in position A, now you're in position B, the requirements are different, the behaviors are different, so we need to help you because we think you can do the job, but you need more support. Okay, you need more training, you need more coaching. Many organizations don't do that because it's too expensive. Sometimes they don't have the skill sets. I mean, Walid happened to be an HR person, but many small organizations don't have an HR department. And the leader themselves know very little about HR. And sometimes leaders happen to be leaders in that positional power sometimes because they founded the organization or they got promoted very quickly because the organization was growing very fast. But not necessarily they have a full understanding of the complexity of managing an organization. And this is something, alhamdulillah, our brothers at Education First are trying to create awareness. I suspect many of the organizations that are here are small to medium organizations, not necessarily have an HR department, but have many leaders. They need to understand this. If you are frustrated when you promote people and they are not doing well, is because this is not their strength. A good sales manager or a good programs manager, even a good HR manager or HR officer is not necessarily an HR manager. HR office manager is not a good HR director. Every single one of them requires a different behavior, different skill sets, and you have to be both the individual and the organization that's promoting them. They have to be aware and they have to help them.
Okay, I think.
Thank you very much.
With this, probably we need to have a break. There's a question maybe from Brother Shahabuddin, but after the break, let's have a break for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because we are late. 5 minutes for now. The next break time is going to be in 50 minutes time, and we'll have it maybe from between 10 to 15 minutes. So, okay, so let's have a break.
5 minutes now. Okay.
Yeah, 5 minutes now.
Inshallah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, thank you very much. Education First and Dr. Naser. Thank you for your beautiful presentation. But I need to share some of the experiences we face here in Impact Makers Foundation. I am the CEO of Impact Makers Foundation here in Ethiopia, dedicated to create active, influential, and exemplary citizens here in Ethiopia. So the main thing we do here is just the capacity building interventions, training, and research, especially. So when we recruit people, so the closest person or the closest institution to us to recruit people from is universities. So we started to recruit some professors from universities. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
So we just recruited some university professors in order to especially head the training department and also prepare some of the training manuals and also making need assessment for the training and so on. So but when they come and join our organization, we have seen just different thing. First, we have to tell them the objectives and the visions we are running to realize in this country, and they were very okay and they were very satisfied about that thing. But when we get into action, the way we educate in universities are a little bit different from what the training department needs, because in the training department we need to focus on the skills and also some of the attitudes. Maybe I was just thinking that the universities are at least what we call the educational, they are familiar with the educational objectives, especially the Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. They are well familiar with that. So I was just hoping that they will make, when they develop manuals, they may make just like this. However, some of them, they are very glad, and also they are very quick to learn. So when you train them, they will be very quick learner. Some of them, this will take many times, and also it needs many effort, so they left. Maybe this is the problem when we recruit people. Just recruit by their titles, not we don't get into the specifics of what our position needs in an organization. That is maybe I think sometimes I fear, because I know one hadith in المستدرك الحاكم, it says من استعمل رجلا في عصابة وفي تلك العصابة من هو أصلح، وفي رواية من هو أرضى لله منه فقد خان الله وخان رسوله وخان المؤمنين. Just I fear this hadith. Sometimes when you select people, if you select someone while the other right person is outside, so you will be asked in front of Allah as well. So maybe I think we have to have first the strategies in order to promote people as well. And also in order to recruit from the outside as well, we need to have the requirements. If we maybe sometimes we may not get a good person from outside, maybe we can, if there are just quick learners, we can train them and promote them like that. That is the issues we are always dealing with.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, I think it's a good reflection from Brother Shahabuddin. And I think many organizations just make assumptions and when they are recruiting people. And academia is it's got its own strength. I know Dr. Khiar is an academia person, so forgive me if I say this sometimes. Real life is different than living in the universities and in academia. It's an ideal world. So when you bring them to organizations, you bring them to a messy situation, and they have to live with that. And I think it's the role of organizations to make sure these things are adapted. Some universities might be better than others in terms of teaching real life experience. Some of them just might be theoretical. So you will have to question your assumptions and then adjust your recruitment process accordingly. Dr. Khiar, you unmuted yourself. Maybe you want to say something? Okay, I think he's not hearing us. Okay, let me share my screen and then move on to the next part of the. So the next part, if you remember, towards the end of responsibility for relationship, I said organizations are built on trust, not on force. So the question is that if trust is so important, how do you build trust in an organization? Okay, without building trust, there'll be a lot of failure, a lot of challenges. So I want to hear from individuals who have experience, who have seen how trust is built in organizations, or even sometimes how trust is destroyed in organizations. So any contributions from your personal experience, feel free to let us know. No one wants to volunteer?
I think normally the trust we started with wealth, money. If you give someone money,
yeah,
and they are trustworthy, they learn from you and they bring it back. If you give them something, then when you need it, you take it back. Then this is, I think, main attribute to trust people nowadays, at least.
Nowadays, okay, that's good. So if I ask you for 10 pounds, you give me, and I give you back, you trust me, then I take 20 pounds and you give me back, I give it to you, and so on. And then once you give me 1,000 pounds, I disappear.
Let is something worthy, maybe.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a fair point. Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Khiar, تفضل.
Oh, sorry.
تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's leading by example. You have to be the role model for your followers. You cannot be a cheater and then you expect others to be trustworthy.
MashaAllah,
so you have to show them what is trust. First, you have to put trust in your followers so that they trust you. So trust is a two-way exchange. You cannot trust unless you are a trusted person. So trust is a two-way understanding.
Perfect.
The second thing is that you have to walk your talk. Whatever you say, you have to show it practically. You cannot say something and do something different. So you have to be a good example.
Yeah,
I think this.
Thank you. Very good, inshallah. We'll come to those points, inshallah. They are mentioned in my presentation. Okay, Jazakallah khairan, Dr. Khiar. So there are obviously, first of all, I'll do two sections on trust. First one is knowing yourself and knowing others. Okay, the more we know about ourselves and the more others know about us and the more we know about others, that builds trust in the first place. So to do that, we will work on what is called a Johari window. It's a framework designed to understand yourself, to know yourself, and basically, and others to know you. The open area, which is quadrant 1, is the things that you know about yourselves and the things people know about you. Okay, usually when you're starting with a new team, new group, the open area is very small because there are a lot of things people don't know about you. And the second one, the blind area, are that things that people know about you, but you don't know about yourself. So they are unknown by yourself, but known to others. Quadrant 3 is the hidden area. This is the thing that you know about yourself, but others don't know about you. And then the fourth area is the unknown area. You don't know it, and others don't know it about you as well. So nobody knows about yourself, including yourself. And the idea of the development of this framework is actually you should increase your open area. Okay, first taking a bit of slice from the blind area. So you should know more about yourself by seeking feedback from others, sometimes self-discovery, and sometimes obviously observation and mutual discovery with others. So whether you discover them yourself or you find it through observation when you go to team building and others. And it's very important that your blind area should be smaller, because your open area is now getting bigger, you're knowing more about yourself. The second part is you decrease your hidden area. Again, there are things that you know about yourself, others don't know them. And this is a part where you have to have some sort of self-disclosure, okay? You have to disclose certain things about yourself. People need to know. If people think you are a black box, you join them, they know nothing about you, there is no way they can trust you, okay? Sometimes you might be going through struggles, through tough time, and you are keeping it yourself. And you know, culturally in our countries, we do that quite a lot in our culture. But what happens is you become a black box. I worked, when I was the CEO, I worked with the head of governance, a lawyer, who was very, very quiet. And he joined the organization for 3 months. Nobody knew anything about him. He was good at his job. He was emailing people. He was asking people to do their work, to review the contracts and any legal work that he was doing. But directors used to come to me and say, we don't know him. We don't know how to communicate with him. We don't know what he likes, what he dislikes. So it took me maybe 6 months to work with him to say, look, you have to engage with people. People have to know you. You have to socialize. You have to tell them a bit about yourself. You have to ask them about themselves, understand their work. And then that, knowing each other and creating a bigger open area for both sides would create an element of trust. If you have blind area is bigger, that means you're known by yourself is that you don't know a lot about yourself, then you have a big problem because you have a blind spot. And this creates distrust in others' competence. That means you start distrusting people or you don't trust them. You tend to have rigid opinions. You're always scared of failure. And that is very dangerous. And you have to be, okay, at the beginning, it might be the open area might be smaller and the blind area is bigger. But as I said in the beginning, through self-discovery, through feedback, and obviously through process of disclosure, you should make your open area bigger. Otherwise, you're becoming another black box, but then you'll have a distrust in people and people don't trust you. And on the other hand, you could have your hidden area being big. That means there is a lot you know about yourself, but others don't know about you. Okay, and in this area, it will be dangerous because you are hiding a lot of information or you are withholding a lot of information. And that creates a vice versa. People don't trust you. You are maintaining some sort of personal image that you are great, you are better than what you are, you are stronger than what you are, okay? And that happens because there is a fear of exposure of your own inadequacies, of your own weaknesses. So you keep a lot of personal information and things that even people should know, okay, to yourself, making your hidden area, okay? And indifferent behavior means actually also have some sort of inconsistency in your behavior, irregular behaviors, and that causes a greater problem. Last but not least, if your unknown area is bigger, that means your open area is the smallest in this size, okay? Then similar to quadrant 3 hidden area, you have indifferent behavior, but also you are a person who takes very little risks. You're withdrawn, you're not socializing, you're not connecting with people, okay? Your communication is almost non-existent, okay? And you do not give any importance to interpersonal relationships, okay? You're not building relationships with people. And this is possibly the person I told you that I work with. His open area, it was in quadrant 1, very small, and he had to work hard. I have to work with him as a leader to make sure that his open area gets bigger. Otherwise, this is the part which I call the black box, and it's very difficult to deal with people when their open area is very small. And even for themselves, they get frustrated because say people don't understand me, people don't know how I want to work. You know, people are very complex. You know, people are emotional. It's not that. It's just you don't understand people. You don't understand yourself. Okay, you kept everything to yourself, and as a result, you have a small open area. So, in short, looking at the 4 diagrams or 4 windows, Q1, 2, 3, 4, where do you see your personal window is with your team and why? You can reflect, you can write it down, and if you want to share anything, feel free. Reflect whether you think your open area is big, as in quadrant 1, expanded, the one I did, or 2 or 3 or 4. Anyone finds this interesting and what they can learn from this with their teams and about themselves?
Yeah, definitely. What's the name of this diagram?
Johari window.
Johari window.
Any reflections from any of you? Good, quite okay. No worries. Okay. And then the question is, if you are not already on Q1 or in Q1, so your open area is not big enough, then what will you do between now and the next 3 months to get to Q1 as an example? How you can write it down. Okay, you might find yourself, you are on, say, quadrant 3, okay, or quadrant 4, where actually your open area is very small. How can you make your open area bigger? What will you do in the next 3 months? And be specific, write it down. Okay, you might be a new team member. You just joined an organization. Nobody knows you. You know nobody. Okay, so your open area is very small. It's in quadrant 4. And my question to you is that, okay, what would you do? How would you get into Q1? You write down some specific actions you are going to do. To avoid to say, I will try to do this, I'll try to do that, because trying is already a commitment. Just make it very affirmative. I will do this, okay? Specific actions. It might be you have to talk to people. You might have to ask people, okay? You might have to go to self-awareness training, whatever it is. You choose how you want to do things differently to know more about yourself. Okay, I'll give you 1 more minute because some people write a lot and some people write very little. It's your options. Then I will move on to the next slide.
Shahabuddin raised his hand.
Oh, تفضل Shahabuddin, I don't see him. Okay,
so 1 minute or 2 maximum.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I need to ask, when we use this Johari window for self-awareness, especially, what makes difficult it is the 4th quadrant, the unknown area.
Yes.
Because you are not known to yourself, yourself, and also the others don't know anything. So what strategies has to be used in order to just narrow down this unknown area to both outsiders and also myself? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah. The key to this point, Barakallah Shahabuddin, the key to this point is to be vulnerable, to work with team and have a joint self-discovery, because you don't know it, they don't know it, okay? But if you work with teams and engage with them and you open up about yourself more, okay, and they start giving you feedback, and then by working together, you will find out there are certain things that actually you didn't know about yourself and others didn't know about you. But this is a self-discovery, is a journey, is a long process, but you have to work together with teams. It will not happen on your own. It's not self-reflection you do and just find out the unknown area. You have to work with others, team buildings, exercises, working with teams help you better. If you are the type of person who works who prefers to work on their own, you will find it difficult to sort of discover the unknown area. Fadal, Ustad Muhammad Idris.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you, Dr. Naser, for this great presentation, mashallah, and we are blessed to have you. And thank you for bringing the Johari window. And I think to the question that the brother asked is, as you said, the feedback is one of the things that you can widen your known area, feedback that you get from your team, and also, sometimes people do the 360 discovery. There are different ways, and actually one of the things that unfortunately small and medium-sized organization may not have the ability to do that, but for big organization, what they do, there are a professional way of finding personalities, trait and personality, how you communicate, how you manage, things that sometimes we don't know about ourselves. So maybe Dr. Naser could also shed light on that, but I'm really benefiting from this. Jazakumullah khair.
Barakallah fik. Okay, we can talk about personality types. Let me hear from Mustafa Adam and then Ramadan, and then I will talk about personality types.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, in order to reach to the P1, I would think getting some online courses maybe would help. Also, seeking a mentor, it might help. Also, asking some of your colleagues a question like, how do you see me? So that you would know what are the unknown areas that people would like to know about you, and engaging yourself in group discussions with your colleagues as well. Thank you.
Mumtaz. Yeah, good. Ustad Ramadan.
My question is about the open area.
Yeah.
What is the limitation of that? You said people knows everything about you and you know everything about them. Is this in individual or in organization? What's the limit of knowing? Because some secret is there, I think, in the organization. I hope you got my point.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'll start with Ustad Ramadan, then I'll go back to what Dr. Muhammad Idris said about personality types. First of all, obviously, we're talking about individuals here. It's not about the organization. The organization has its own policies, what is to be shared, what is not to be shared. Okay? And you have sensitive information, you have private and confidential information, and so on. I'm talking about as a person, as an individual. When I build the trust with you, how much do you know about myself? I'll give you an example. Obviously, it's because we have a large group, we don't do it here. When I did this exercise recently, and I said to people, just tell me the most difficult or important experience you have in your childhood. And everybody shared something. And then I said to them, okay, who knows about this information from your team? He said, nobody knows it. He said, how would you feel if you share it? He said, no, now that we share it with this group in the training room, we feel confident we can share it with our team. But before we thought it's just, we should not share it. Some of it was quite important information that if their colleagues know in the office, they would treat them differently. They would understand them better. We obviously, it's very culturally sensitive because people who come from Asia and Africa are more secretive and keep a lot of personal information, unlike Western people. Without generalizing, but that's just normally what happens. So one is about personal information. I'm not talking about organizational information. And secondly, the open area can never be 100% big. It cannot be, it cannot cover everything. There are definitely things that you want to keep for yourself that you will not share with anyone. But what we are saying is that should be minimum, which is the hidden area. Okay, this number 3. It should be minimum because that is that you want to keep for yourself. We are saying is minimize quadrant 2, 3, and 4, but it doesn't mean that the open area should be, just maximum big, because that would not be, because we all have some personal information that we want to keep for ourselves. Okay. Dr. Muhammad Idris mentioned something interesting, and it can go a long way is as part of self-awareness. You can do what's called personality types assessment. There are many of them. The very well known globally, that about 2 million people take that assessment a year, is called MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. If you Google it, you might just want to Google MBTI or sometimes 16 personalities, and you find some links to do an assessment. It's obviously it's a self-assessment, so you are answering the question, so it is your own perception about who you are. But there are other ones as well, such as called DISC, which stands for Dominant, Influence, Steadiness, and Compliant. And there are other ones as well, but these are just the two sort of very popular ones. There's another one called the Big Five. The Big Five also tells you about your personalities. It stands for Big Five is Ocean as well: openness, consciousness, extroversion, adaptability, and then neuro something, I can't remember now. But anyway, you can Google Big Five and you will see it as well. Those assessments will tell you something about yourself. Maybe not everything, but there are things that you already know, and there are things that they will tell you. Dr. Muhammad Idrisi said 360 feedback. 360 feedback will tell you what your blind area is, will not tell you what your unknown area is, because the unknown area is that people don't know about yourself and you don't know it yourself. So that one may be a personality assessment, but this personality assessment on their own, they do not have a lot of value. They tell you a bit, and especially if they're not administered by a qualified person, you will get the free online ones. They have very small information or very little information. They don't give you the full version because you have to pay for it, but that had to be administered by someone who is qualified to do that. There is something else as well. Can tell you a bit more about yourself. It's called the TKI, Thomas Kilmann instrument, is to do about conflict management. And that helps you as well to see as a person how we deal with conflicts when they come in. So yes, there are quite a bit of them. If you want to search about personality types and look at different tools, use some of the free versions. But if you have the opportunity, like Ustad Mustafa said and Ustad Ramadan, you can go to training to do the self-assessment. Then they will tell you more about your personality. Okay, I don't see anyone else raising their hands. So I want you to spend a couple of minutes and reflect on a piece of constructive feedback you have received in the past 6 months. Write down the feedback and describe the context in which it was given. Okay. Then reflect what is something new you learned about yourself and how else can you know yourself better. So reflect on a constructive feedback you received. I said past 6 months. If you cannot remember 6 months, doesn't matter. Do it 12 months. Okay. Write down the feedback and describe the context. And then see what you've learned new about yourself and what else can you do to know more about yourself. We'll give it a couple of more minutes and then we'll move on, inshallah. Okay. Before I ask you if you want to share anything, Ustad Abdul Qadir Abu Umar asked me this question. You're interested to know if the materials can be shared. I will share all the materials with you, and you will have them in PowerPoint. And there are some notes even for me that I put in. You can use. You can freely use the materials, change them, adapt them, change the template, remove my name, do whatever you need to do with it. No copyright. So inshallah, I'll give it to the education first. When I finish tomorrow, the managing teams, and then you will have them together, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, Abu Omar, is that okay with you?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, everything will be shared, inshallah. Use it as you wish. It's my own material that I develop from my own knowledge, books, research, and so on. So there is no copyright. Okay. Anyone wants to share something they have learned or from this exercise, not even if they don't want to be specific? Any reflection? We find it useful.
Personally, I found it quite useful. But maybe I need to sit down, digest it, and maybe put it in practice.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anyone else?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Farzana. It was really a very healthy discussion, and it gave me, at least me, it gave some different direction to think about various things and to give us time to just sit and relax and to focus on many things that maybe there we don't have some words to describe what we want to say. So to use appropriate words and to relax ourselves and just to clarify that where are our problems, how we can rectify them, especially that diagram of quadrant you shared. So how to increase our open area, we never thought about that. As someone asked that, we thought that, at least I thought that there are some limitations. So we should also just focus on that limitation. But the diagram you showed us, it forced me to think about it. So thank you very much for giving us that direction.
You're welcome, Farzana, alhamdulillah. Okay, anyone else wants to?
Okay, Dr. Nasruddin, someone is asking here, Araha, is asking, is there a possibility that the 4 quadrants can be found in a person?
I don't understand the question, the 4 quadrants, because there will be one area has to be bigger than the other.
Yeah.
If he meant that there will be like, let's say when I started with here, like, would they be all equal like this? Is that what he meant?
No, he meant quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. I think it is impossible.
Yes, we all have all 4 quadrants, but one are bigger than the other. And what we make sure is that we want to make sure quadrant 1 is bigger. We want to make it like this. So there will be some hidden areas that we don't want to share with people. There are blind spots that people will never tell us because they think we'll be offended. And there are unknown areas. So they will all exist with us. But what we are saying is which window should be the biggest. And we are saying window 1 or quadrant 1 should be the open area should be the biggest. Yeah. Is that clear?
It's kind of very transparent. Is that the case? Quadrant 1, it represents the area of complete transparency. Can we say that?
Yeah, no, yes, because yes, quadrant 1 is transparency because people know about yourself and you know about yourself, yes. One second, I have here and Rayan thing is quite useful, but I feel we should have more elaboration on personal analyzation. Do you mean, Rayan, do you mean about like personality types? Personal analyzation, you mean personality types?
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Yeah, actually, I'm Rayan's mother. Rayan is my son's name, so I'm using his laptop. So I couldn't change the name. First of all, assalamu alaikum to everyone. And thank you, Dr. Naser and other Education First staff, those who have provided this platform to get this information. This is really beneficial for me. Myself is an self-entrepreneur as plus an English teacher. So I would like to know some more tips and some more points about the personal analyzation so that we can work better in a community or in a company or with our team. So this is my question. If you have any more tips and tricks so that we can analyze ourselves and we can promote well with the community and with the company. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch your name. You said your
my name is Shumaila.
Shumaila, okay, sister Shumaila, okay. No, I think I'm qualified assessor for DISC and for MBTI, so I do self-assessment for people and I give feedback and I train. But that takes a bit of time and it's quite detailed. It's not something you can do quickly, to be honest. It needs to be a whole session, like 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
First, people need to take the assessment, and then we have to talk about the personality types. We need to talk about the blind spots, their strengths, and some reflection. So maybe in the future, when education first arrange something similar, but it has to be a much smaller group if we want some interaction, because it's to look at 100 people's assessment would be a nightmare. So, but it can be done, but not here. Unfortunately, it will take some time, and then I have to prepare. Well, I have some slides we can show, but it will take us away from what we are trying to do today.
Okay, sir, my main point is that some basics points should be there. I mean, some 2 or 3 or 4 points should be there so that a person can analyze himself that where he is lacking and where he is good or what he has to improve more. I mean, only this part, not in a deep details, just basic points.
And I suggest you type MBTI assessment and you'll find some free assessment. They will give reports.
Okay.
Do MBTI assessment because you need to know about yourself first, and through this way, about type MBTI assessment, or I think something called 16 personalities type as well, and there's a free assessment. Take it, and they'll give you a report.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Tosin Ashimi.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Naser. Yeah, I just have this question regarding the 4 quadrants. Yeah. I'm curious to know if this quadrant can be applied to a team that is not built on transparency. There are different kind of things. So if you are getting a feedback from a team that is not built on transparency, can you apply the feedback on the 4 quadrants, or do you think the 4 quadrant will only reflect its value on a team, on a feedback that is coming from a team that is well structured on genuine policy and transparency? What do you think, sir?
If I get your question right, are you saying can we use the Johari window for teams feedback? Okay, right. It can be used with a team to give feedback each other, but it's not about the entire team. The team will give feedback to individuals about individuals. And if it's, say you are 7 of you, 6 will give a feedback to this individual, and then another 6 will give to another individual, and so on. That way, as a team, you know each other, and you know what your open areas, your blind areas, and so on, and then develop to improve your relationship with the team. But it's not. The quadrant itself is about individual, not about the team, but it is used with. It can be used by teams to know each other better.
Also, can this be used by manager to appraise his team member or to do an evaluation of their team member to show the weakness and the strength and advise them on how they can develop personally in terms of personal relationship and team relationship?
Yeah, it's used with 360 feedback, like Dr. Muhammad Idris said. When you do 360 feedback, actually, technically, you're doing like a Johari window feedback, because the 360 feedback includes feedback from yourself about your own strengths and weaknesses as you identify them. It'll be your peers, people who are on the same level as you, and then your direct report, and so your boss, and then your direct reports. So, and that's 360 feedback. So when you get feedback from all types of people who work with you, who are your bosses, your subordinates, your peers, and about yourself, you end up having a Johari window sort of feedback.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we need to move on. Mashallah, engagement has been good. Okay, so we talked about that. So we're going to talk a bit more about trust, because the reason being is that organizations are built on trust, and without trust, everything else would fall apart. So what we'd like to look is what are the core components of or characteristics that form the foundation of trust in leadership. Okay, why is trust considered pivotal in leadership, and what are the tangible and intangible benefits? What are the implications or repercussions of broken trust in a leadership setting? Once trust is compromised, how can it be rebuilt, and what steps can leaders take to maintain and foster trust over time? Since we've taken quite a bit of time in the discussions, I'm going to move on straight away here. But usually I create discussions with that slide as well. First of all, it's important to understand even leadership in Islam is based on trust. As in the Quran, chapter 28, 26, one of the daughters of Shu'aib, she said to her father, "Oh, my father, hire him. Verily, the best person for you to hire is the strong, meaning competent, and the trustworthy. إن خير من استأجرت القوي الأمين." And so a lot of scholars say, look, strong here means competent. At the time, obviously, Musa alayhi salam was physically strong, but he was fit to do that job at that moment in time. But generally, the word strong, qawi, it means the competency that is required for the job and the trustworthiness. So, and the Prophet ﷺ used to be called as Sadiq al-Amin. Even before he became a prophet, he was known by al-Amin. So he was the most trustworthy. And that's why they had a difficulty at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. When he announced he was a prophet, he could not say a lie because they never experienced a lie with him, like Dr. Khiyar earlier mentioned, okay? Being honest, being trustworthy person, being consistent with what you say and what you do, people find it difficult eventually even to distrust you because you are a trustworthy person. And that's what happened with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another way of looking at trust, in day-to-day practice, because we have the Johari window is a feedback. You can have it from time to time. You have self-discovery, self-disclosure. But on a day-to-day practice, what else can you do? There's something called braving model. I will talk about each of the letters in detail. This was developed by a famous writer called Brené Brown in her book, Dare to Lead. And she's quite experienced in terms of helping leaders and organizations build trust and bring vulnerability. So braving, B stands for boundaries. Respect for one's boundaries and understanding and setting your own. What are the boundaries of individuals and your own? And it's being about clear what is okay and what is not okay. So I dealt with an individual and I was coaching, and this individual was very upset with their HR manager. And then said, I'm very upset because the HR manager, when I went on maternity leave, it was a she, the HR manager discussed my pay with my husband, who also works in the same organization. And she said to me, the HR manager needs to know the boundaries. Yes, the wife of my husband, but that's at home. In my workplace, I'm an individual who has his own personal identity and autonomy, and she should deal with me like that and not share my details, my pay with anyone else. So for that individual, this boundary was very important. For others, could be other boundaries. So to build respect, always find out what the boundaries are. And also show yourself, be clear what are the boundaries about yourself, what are okay and not okay to discuss, okay? And what you would accept it to be okay, and so on. The second one is reliability, and that's where Dr. Khiyar said. Doing what you say you will do, okay? Being a role model, lead by examples. It is about being consistent, okay? Following your commitments. If you say, I will do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't promise. Otherwise, why should I trust you? You always say you will do it. By the way, sometimes we did with our children, many of you who have children, and our kids sometimes bother us, can I have this, can I have that? I said, inshallah, inshallah, and then you don't do it. And then inshallah becomes, that means no, okay? Or I will do it, and then you don't do it because the requests are too many from kids, and then eventually they lose that reliability. Say, look, my dad, when he says he will do it, he doesn't mean it. Then you have a problem. The same way in a workplace, when you say you will do it, will you do it? Or it is just one of those people that you try to please everyone by saying yes, but then you don't do it. And that creates lack of reliability. Accountability. This is maybe the most difficult part, by the way, especially in our cultures. We don't own our own actions. We do not apologize when we make mistakes. Okay? We're not open. We didn't say, hands up, I got it wrong. Okay, let's discuss it. How can we fix it? Instead, instantly we find 100 excuses and possibly somebody to blame for the mistake. So it is always someone else's mistake or the circumstances, the context. Is never me. What type of leader are you? A perfect leader, a perfect individual? There is no such thing as a perfect person. So when you do that, when you don't own your own actions, when you do not apologize when you make mistakes, when you do not fix your mistakes, then you are avoiding accountability and you are now touching on the issue of trust with your colleagues. Vault, as you know, is something very secret. That thing is no one else can open it. Keeping confidences and not sharing stories, experiences that aren't yours to share. People might come to you, people might trust you, and they want to discuss with you things, but they want to be feel safe that they will not be exposed or their information will not be shared with others. So what is shared within confidence has to remain confidential. Don't share it. Sometimes, you say in Arabic, "Beni wa bainak," between me and you, and so on, so on. And without knowing it, it's between, Delhi, inshallah, you've got Maghrib time. Carry on. I've got a couple of slides to finish, and then maybe we can take a break again, inshallah ta'ala. So yes, between me and you, Beni wa bainak, and then so on, and then 100 people hear it between Beni wa bainak. That's not confidential anymore. And integrity is, again, something Dr. Khiyar said, practicing your values, not just professing them. You don't say one thing and you do something else, okay? It's about choosing courage over comfort. Sometimes, if your values are more important, you have to do them rather than think what is the easiest thing to do, what is the fast thing to do. Are these my values? If they are not, it might be difficult, but just follow your values, practice your values. Being non-judgmental, okay? And this is another difficult part I find in myself and with others that I see. When people talk to you, you jump to conclusions, okay? Instead, give them benefit of doubt. Don't judge others until you hear from them, especially if they come for help. Don't see them as imperfect and weak people, but tell them as people who trust you, who want your help. And generosity, I like this, is husn al-dhan, okay? Assuming good intentions and extending the most generous interpretation to the intentions, words, and actions of others. It's in Islam, we are taught about husn al-dhan, okay? You have to assume good intentions when somebody do that, instead of assuming the worst, assuming this person is playing games, that person is playing games, okay? They just want to take an advantage of the system, of the policy. They want to take advantage of me being nice. Be careful. If you do that, then you are not building trust, but actually destroying trust. So maybe take 2 minutes to individually write down 3 things that you will do to build or enhance trust between you and your team members. What are 3 things that you will do to build or enhance trust between you and your team members? If you think you have reached the maximum trust between you and your team members, congratulations. But if there is anything else you want to do, then write it down. Another way of assessing whether you have full trust of your team is maybe to score yourself between 1 and 10. 1 meaning there is no trust, 10 meaning that there's a maximum trust between your teams. Where would you score your team in terms of trust between you and your team? Is it 5? Is it 6? Is it 7? And if that's the case, what can you do to increase it to 10? 2 more minutes. And then if there's any Q&A, and then we can take a break, inshallah. Okay, finally, like Dr. Khiyar said earlier on, remember, trust is a two-way system. People need to trust you, and you need to trust them as well, okay? So don't think that others have to trust you, but you don't need to trust them, okay? Especially as leaders, we always say we have to be suspicious about our staff. Well, they will be suspicious about their leaders as well and their motives. Okay, before we go to break, and then we'll talk about managing our time, then we'll talk to managing individuals. Any reflections, any questions?
Okay, I thought when you are socializing, maybe out of working hours, it makes life easy. There is no formalities, and you could give and take. You discover you might have something that will interest both of you. Then you discover each other more. You know about each other more, and that will have an impact in the trust, I believe.
Barakallahu fik. You know each other more. That means your open window area becomes bigger, both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Alhamdulillah. So that's another tool, socializing. And then in those areas, those who are praying in Riyadh as well, please feel free to pray Riyadh and come back to Maghrib. Ustad Mustafa.
Yes, in order to build trust, I would consider a two-way communication, always a two-way communication, and to hear more versus talking more. And another point, a balance between your expectation from your team and their expectation as well. Yeah. So also the two ways of balancing things, and then always admitting and accepting mistakes if you have done any mistake.
MashaAllah, very good. Yes, Barakallah fi Ustad Mustafa. Very good. Any more additions in terms of how to build trust or your reflection on what we have said? Omar's iPhone. So I ask you, Omar.
Assalamu alaikum. Just I would add only one point: is respect. The respect to go two ways. Whoever you're dealing with, you have to be respected and to respect.
Respect. Good. Okay, inshallah, mashallah. Rayan's mother. Sorry, I forgot your name because I can see your son's name. Okay, please.
Yes, assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, according to me, commitment will be the first point or one of the important point that you have to focus in terms of keeping trust in between our team. Commitment. So, yeah. Because if you do commitment and you will fulfill the commitment, then the other party should have a trust on you and they think positive about you. Same goes with other people. Then if you provide the commitment, you are fulfilling the commitment, the other people will also believe on you and they will try to commit as well and fulfill their promises.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Welcome, sir.
When we say that induction for new employee, for example, from the beginning, will assist in building the trust?
Tell me how it, I mean, it will give them more information about the organization, but not about individuals.
Yeah.
Usually you don't want in the induction to tell who is doing what and or what their things are. You tend to tell them about the organization more, but not about individuals. It might go, I mean, it's a good practice to have an induction because, but that one is more about employee satisfaction, employee being confident and comfortable to work in an organization because they do not have to go through a learning process. The most important information is given to them. And sometimes they say induction reduces staff turnover because there is no frustration or other things. But I'm not sure whether it will go a long way to build trust between people. Okay, anyone else?
Assalamu alaikum.
Hamdani, Fadal.
Now, I think just to contribute related to the last statement you made, or a statement you made rather, that don't be suspicious about your staff. I remember a presentation by a lecturer in a program I attended. I found something he mentioned very catchy. He said, try to catch your employees doing something good, not only you know, catching them doing something bad. At least that will give them some level of you know, confidence, and they'll feel like they are being trusted, and that will at least double their effort and contribution towards the progress of the organization.
Yeah, Okay, brilliant. That's good, alhamdulillah. Yeah, and we have from Muhammad Idris, trust requires enabling others to act, allows them to make decisions and be ready to tolerate imperfect results. Yes, we'll talk about that one later on, inshallah, as well. I think it's tomorrow with managing teams.
Okay, shall we have a break now?
Yeah, I think so. I think there are no other, so we'll have a break. How long do you want your brother Abdul Qadir?
Well, 10 minutes.
10 minutes,
break.
okay. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah fi.
Anyone wants to share any personal experience they have or they noticed or they've heard? Like the brother mentioned, you know, catch your employees doing something good instead of something making a mistake.
Sometimes in a time of difficulty or need,
Yeah.
when you stand by the people,
yeah,
that I think will build more trust and good relation.
Yeah, yeah, very good point. A very good point. Yes, yeah. During time of difficulty, are you somebody that I can lean on, and somebody who can give me support? Good. Barakallahu feek. Muhammad Ibrahim, تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Muhammad Ibrahim.
Yes, go ahead.
The regional program director for the Horn of Africa, Raha. You know, there was a point, self-reflection feedback. Sometimes, you know, when we enter a discussion, maybe we are right, you know, some point, but we have sometime when I was arguing with my friend, and I was right about some point, but he directed me that, Muhammad, you are right, but you have to look at the whole picture, not only focusing in a specific point. And I was really feeling it, you know, was right, because I have to give priority for the whole picture instead of focusing in a specific point.
That's good, mashallah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Very good example, brother Muhammad Ibrahim. Okay, I'm going to move on to start looking the second part of managing oneself, which is managing your time. So delegation is one of the most challenging things that we face as human beings. And sometimes some people are very good at delegating, some find it difficult. So first, I just want you to reflect, think about your experience of delegation and answer the following questions. When did you last delegate a major task, and what was the outcome? What could you improve about the way you did this? Okay, think about a major task you delegated. What was the outcome? And what could you do to improve the way you did this? Okay, then look at the second question. Think of a time when someone delegated a task to you effectively, and what were the factors that contributed to the success of this? Now, think of a time when someone delegated a task to you, or you delegated the task to someone, either way, and the experience was not positive. What was the problem? And what lessons can you learn from the experience? So the last one is something that was not positive outcome, whether you delegated the task to someone or someone delegated to you. And what was the problem? And what lessons can you learn from the experience? I'll give one more minute if you want to write anything for your personal reflection, and then I will start. Okay. Another question for you, a reflection. If you were able to delegate more of your workload, what high value task could you spend more time on? Or the other way around, I mean, already the other way around. Anyway, what high value task could you spend more time on if you could delegate more of your workload? If you could delegate more of your workload, what high value task could you spend more time on? Something we're going to reflect is, why is delegation hard to let go of some tasks? And how can we make sure we do it fairly? And how do we ensure they will be done well? So common excuses of delegation is delegating takes too long, okay, the other person won't complete the job correctly. I'm the only person who can do this, and I should do this task because I'm good at it. It's like my comfort zone. I like it. I enjoy it. Okay, so we have okay, some of these people are okay, lack of clarity of the task given good expectations. So like okay, Muhammad Idris on strategic issues. Brilliant. Okay. So these are some of the excuses that we hear a lot. If I do it better, it'll be quicker. If I do it, it'll be quicker. If I do it, it will be better. The other person won't do it correctly. But what we do not realize is that the other person will never learn if they don't do it. We don't delegate to them and they make a mistake. So one way we're looking at is what we call the delegation empowerment continuum model. Basically that as a leader, how do you delegate and on what basis do you delegate? And here we're looking at employee authority, and then on the bottom we're looking at employee skill and motivation on this 2x2 framework. So what we are saying here is, as a leader, you may start here where you see that the employee's authority is low because you haven't given them much, but also their skills and motivation is low. But you need to work on their skills and motivation, and the higher their skills and motivation is, the more authority you give them. So gradually moving from this quadrant to a partner where you're doing the work with them after you've been doing it on your own, start delegating and do it with, show them and do it with them. Eventually, let them do it, give them more support until they become fully independent and you're full empowerment. What you don't want to do is not to be an abdicator or an autocrat. An abdicator is basically someone who gives a lot of authority too soon. So too much too soon. Employees don't have the skills or the motivation needed, and yet you're giving them a lot of authority, and it can end up in disaster. On the other hand, you might have employees who have the skill sets and the motivation, but you're withholding authority. Then you are an autocrat, okay? In both cases, I put a red face, I say, this is not where you want to be. Move on from the leader quadrant to a partner to a supporter, and make sure the skills and motivations of your individuals are taken care of. Then the authority should come based on how much skills they have and how much motivation they have. So what we say is some tips and ideas: delegate responsibly. Okay, you can't just delegate everything, and you need to delegate it to the right person. And you can use this quadrant that was created by President Eisenhower. I'm not sure whether he created it when he was the president or when he was the supreme commander of the Allied forces in the World War II. But anyway, what he said is seldom that important things are urgent and urgent things are important. Basically, not everything is important is urgent, and not everything urgent thing is important. So you have to decide when you get the task, when you get the issue. If it is urgent and important, is on quadrant number 1, you do it now. There is no chance of missing it. But if it is urgent but not important, you can actually schedule it and give it a less priority. And then the third one, when it is high in importance but low on urgency. And last one on the quadrant 4, sometimes I say just bin it, forget about it as well. Because if it is low on importance and low on urgency, just don't bother about it at all. Okay, even just decline it or bin it, but focus on this 1, 2, and 3 and analyze when you get a task, where does it fit in. You need to involve your team when you're delegating the task and be confident that they will do it, that you have given them all the resources, you have trained them, you have shown them. And then if something goes wrong, be prepared to help them to fix it, rather than saying, I'd rather do it next time myself. So when you do delegation, you should delegate responsibility, not tasks. And this is very, very important. Instead of saying, do this bit and come back to me, and do this bit and come back to me, do this bit and come back to me. No, I tell them, this is what we are trying to achieve. This is the outcome we are trying to get. And then here is a task that I want you to do. Okay. Let the person know what the intended outcome is, what you're trying to achieve. And you'll be surprised, sometimes they have better ways of doing them. I recently did this training with someone, and they said, we were some programs people here, and she said, I gave it to one of my staff to do the job, and it was a logical framework. And she said, I was surprised. He did it better than I would have done it, and I learned from the way he's done it. So from delegation, you should be able to learn, especially if the individual knows what the intended outcome is, just rather than giving them individual tasks. You need to see delegation as a process. Delegation is not a one-off exercise. No one is going to learn from first time you give them the job. They will make some mistakes. They will need to learn. They will need support. They need a partner. Okay? You will have to take that journey, but it pays off because as a process is an investment. You need to explain and align the expectation. Okay? Demonstrate, show them how to do it. Coach them and give them some autonomy. Don't stand over them and just tell them, okay, while you're doing it, I'm watching you. Give them some space, give them some authority, and fine if they make mistakes. When you're doing this, be sure to catch your emotions, to find out where you are in that stage. Okay, are you worried? Are you frustrated? Are you happy? Are you excited? Whatever you do about your personal emotions, it would impact the way you delegate and the way you manage people. The mood meter is a very simple tool that actually can help you to find out where you are somewhere in between being angry and frustrated and being excited and happy. So on the left hand, we have feeling of being unpleasant, high or low, okay, and being pleasant. And the other side, we have high energy or low energy. And if you have low energy and pleasantness, then what you have, so if you have high energy and pleasantness, then your calmness and contentment. But if you have high energy, low energy and pleasantness, but if you have high energy and high pleasantness, then what you have is you have excitement. And that is very, very important. And looking at this, you can say, actually, where do I fit in? Where are my emotions? And what am I trying to do? And when I'm helping my team to delegate. Look at this picture, and then I want you to think individually to reflect on your current emotional state. Try to identify which quadrant you are currently in and think of a specific word that describes your emotion. You're anxious, which is on the red quadrant, or you're relaxed in the green quadrant. Make note of your reflection. Okay, so take 2 minutes to find out where do you think you are and write down how you feel now at this stage and write it down. Okay, so what emotions did you identify and what triggered this emotion? And how does this emotion affect your behavior and decision making? You don't have to share anything with me if you want to. If you don't want to, but write it down. So what emotions did you identify? What triggered this emotion? And how does this emotion affect your behavior and decision making? Okay, anyone wants to reflect on this? No? Okay. Another one that you might want to reflect about your managing time and managing style is to look at what we call the Blake-Wheaton managerial grid. Are you the person that you have more concern for people, or you have more concern for the production or the task? So this is low and high, so low concern for people, high concern for people, and low concern for task and high concern for task. And usually we find ourselves somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between one of these quadrants, including the middle one. And if you have high concern for people and low concern for task, they call it a country club management. Basically, you make everybody happy, but the work suffers. But if you have high concern for task and low concern for people, you have an authority compliance management style. The job gets done, but people get frustrated. If you are in the impoverished management, which is both low concern for task and low concern for people, then you're wasting everybody's time. Nobody likes you, okay, and the job is not being done. On the highest level, sometimes it's achieved, sometimes it's not, is to be on the team management, where both you satisfy the concerns of people and also the job is done to the highest standard possible. This one is not always possible. Many people would think they fit in here, but the reality, it doesn't work that way. Sometimes there is a conflict between the task and the people, okay? And you will have to prioritize what you think is most important for you. Whenever I do this exercise in groups, in person, everybody says, I'm in the team management. And that I wish that would be true, because it cannot be. You cannot make the concerns of people have, high all the time, happy, and same time you get the highest possible production. It might happen sometimes, but not always. And being in the middle of the road is always, they say they are holding the stick from the middle. Dr. Muhammad Idris, تفضل.
بارك الله فيك Dr. Naser. I think this is really amazing, mashallah. I was just reflecting on the first illustration that you made, and I was wondering, I don't know if leaders sometimes may feel they have the four emotion at the same time in certain areas. They may be happy with certain performance of or part of the organization, and they are so angry and frustrated in how performance are done in some areas, and maybe the same thing with employees and tasks. So is that something normal, and what is your thought on that?
I think when it comes to emotion, we have one emotional state. We don't have four emotional states. Maybe we as a person, from using our rational processing, we might say we are happy with X, with Y, or Z. But if you get me a mood meter, if there was a machine to test me, they will only give me one emotional state. But when I explain it, I might say, okay, Dr. Muhammad Idris did very well, but Abdullah did not well, and other things. But my emotions are already triggered. So either I'm sweating or I'm smiling or whatever, something, or my heartbeat is high. That will not change. It's one single emotion at one time. Or Dr. Muhammad Idris, you have a different view?
No. I just wanted to clarify on that. It looks like what you are talking about is taking the temperature at on the whole aspect. But I think in an organization, usually there will be some departments are going very well, some departments are not good, or within the department also there will be areas that you are struggling with. So always there are like the different stages and different status. But I see your point that you are trying to measure, okay, overall, what is the average?
Yeah.
I think that's what you mean. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, sure. Dr. Khiyar, Bismillah.
Okay, thank you very much. I want you to a bit shift this discussion. Since families are like organizations, some parents are very poor in delegating tasks to their family members, to their kids especially. And the whole family activities depends on the parents.
Yeah.
So how can we make our kids more responsible by delegating some of the tasks to the kids? So as they grow more responsible and more towards the adulthood. By the time they reach adults, they rely on themselves. Unfortunately, this doesn't happen because most of the parents, they do everything on their own, and they don't let the kids take the chance to try to do something on their own. Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Khiyar, actually very, very nice point. Even though it's not my specialty about parenting and other things, but from my personal experience, what I would say is, first of all, let your kids always see what you are doing and explain to them why you are doing it as well. Not only what you are doing, but why you are doing them. and then gradually ask them to help you. One of the things that I see with kids, they are happy to see that if you ask them, help me. If you tell them, do this, it's most likely they will not do it. But if you tell them, can you help me to do this? And they start giving them tasks. Even look, if you're fixing something and they'll tell them, okay, give me that tool, give me that, pass me this one, okay? And bring this, put this one in there. That is where gradually they start enjoying helping. And then you tell them, okay, can you do this? And give them now a task to do. Gradually, obviously, you take it in stages, in small parts. And then when started growing, what you find is they've gone through experience of, they know the tools, as an example, for example, they know the name of the tools, they know what they are for, and which ones to use for what purpose. And maybe they haven't even used them, they have used them in some instances. And then when you give them the full task at a later stage, they're actually doing them, and then take the risk, obviously, as long as it's not a high risk, obviously gradually take it that way. So that, I think that's one way of involving and delegating. One of the things, you know, in this day and age, which our time was completely different, we are spoiling our children. And when they grow up, they get lost when they go to mix with their, especially when they go to college, they don't know anything about real life because the parents have been doing everything. Okay, if it is the mother trying to teach cooking the children and their even the girls or the boys, should do also the same. Engage them, make them part of the things, and don't be upset when they make mistakes. Especially at the beginning, they're going to be a bit careless. Who cares? Well, so what if this happens and so on? And just try to explain them rather than shout them at them and scream at them, because what will happen is, okay, they're not going to help you again because they feel that what do you call it? Every time I make mistakes, you're going to shout at me, so I don't want to work with you. Okay, I'm going to take Mustafa Adam, and then we will look at the couple of comments we have here.
Thank you. I just have a question, which is nowadays we see many companies giving incentives or bonuses as regards to the production. The more you produce, the more you get the bonus or the incentive. So where does this fall in the grid? That is concern for people and concern for the production or task.
Okay, I think you've answered it. It's concern for production, definitely. And this is what they call performance-related pay. The more you do, the more you get. They don't care about your well-being. Okay, they don't care about your health. They don't care about the situation. If you can kill yourself and do as much as they can, it will pay you more. So it's all concern for production. There is nothing about your well-being. Okay, Dr. Muhammad is saying managing people and relationships are more difficult than managing tasks. Yes, obviously, making everybody happy is not easy. Some people find it easier than others. And this has sometimes depends on the personality types, Dr. Muhammad Idris. We're not covering it here, but there are people who are their personality types, their strength is about relationship building. And other people are more about getting tasks, getting job done. So there are difference of personality types that actually influence where we sit in the grid. Dr. Muhammad Idris, is this an old hands up or is new one? You've raised your hand.
Maybe it's old. He didn't.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. Last part. You remember when I mentioned about the 6 points? What is your strengths and how do you work? What you contribute? What your values are? The last one I said is you have to have a personal goal because we are coming to an end to the managing with yourself. You have to have a personal goal, and I like this sort of a quote that says the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goals to reach. Okay, you have to have a goal to reach it, otherwise you don't know where you are. Okay, so having a goal and not reaching it is not a disaster, but not having a goal by itself is the problem. Okay, any questions or discussions on the previous topic? Then I will move on to managing individuals for the next an hour and 10 minutes or so. Inshallah, then we wrap up. Okay, managing individuals. So a reflection for all of you again. What skills are needed to manage individuals effectively? And this one is something easy, so you can even put it on the chat. What gets in your way to effectively manage individuals? And what can you do about it? Yeah. So what skills are needed to manage individuals effectively? And what gets in your way to effectively manage individuals? And what can you do about it? So one way you can look at it is to reflect on how your ideal managers or manager managed others effectively, okay? And what did they do differently? 2 more minutes, and then we will go.
Can I participate, Dr. Nasser?
تفضل, yes, تفضل.
Yeah, you have to have the leadership skills, communication skills, and professionalism.
Okay, I like communication skills, but I don't like professionalism. It doesn't mean anything. Tell me practical stuff. If somebody is professional, what do you see in them?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the question, Mr.
I said
Mr.
I like communication skills. Is a certain skills or behavior that you can see somebody communicating effectively. But when you say professionalism, I don't know what it means. What is the behavior? What is the skills that you see? Professionalism is not a skill itself. It's a perception you have about a person when they behave in a certain way. They think they're professional, but how are they behaving or how they communicate and what skills do they have?
What I meant here to be professional, not taking things as personal in everything in your organization.
Okay, fine. That's good. Yes, that's what I'd like to. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Good. Let's hear from Farzana and then from Mustafa Adam.
Yes, brother. The one of the main thing is that we should know our priorities. So when we should know priorities and let others know our priorities, so that it will be then easy for us to manage everything.
Good prioritization. Very good, inshallah. Okay, and we can use the grid that we showed earlier on. Yes, Mustafa.
Yes, in order to manage individuals, you need to lead by example. Yeah. And also, you need to motivate. There should be a sort of motivation for doing the work, and also always ask for feedback, and also two-way communication, and always asking, always receiving their inputs as well would help.
Inshallah, very good. Okay, inshallah, good. I think all of them very good. That you said, all of you. Okay, the first thing we need to look at is when we are managing individuals, there are things that we do consciously and there are things we do subconsciously, okay? And we call them management iceberg. That what people see and what we claim that we do and the consciously do is we manage tasks, we delegate tasks, okay? We provide resources, time, budgets, look at results, okay? Evaluate performance, and so on. These are the things that we consciously do, we look at them, and we talk about them, and we create some rational justifications. What people don't usually see, and what we even subconsciously do, and we don't see ourselves, is underneath, which is the part of this iceberg. Our feelings, our values, our personalities, the people we work with, the motivation, the communication aspect. Okay, we communicate, but do we communicate in an aggressive way, assertive way, passive way? There are many things that sometimes we subconsciously do and we do not notice it. And one of the most important things is that when we are going to manage individuals, we have to know both sides of this iceberg. The objective, the clear one, the tip of the iceberg that everybody sees, and the hidden part of our personality. So our behavior eventually is actually made up of our personality, our attitudes and values, the perception and attribution we have, and skills and abilities that we have gained over years. So one thing we need to know is that, can we make actually a decision without emotions? Quickly, is it possible to make a decision without emotions? You can say yes or no on the chat. I want to hear as many people as possible. No, yes. No, 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 no. A lot of no's coming up, mashallah. Yes, yes, no. Okay, brilliant. Let's look at it. Reason without emotion is neurologically impossible. Dr. Antonio Damasio from University of California. Okay, it is impossible, and Bilal says depends. Okay, it is impossible to make actually any decision that does not have any emotion. We try to justify what we did and how we did it, and we bring all the logical excuses, but we like it or not, there is an element of emotion that is done. The reason being is that when we take information, we take it through our 5 senses. And then we take it through our 5 senses, the first thing it hits is our limbic system, our emotions. That is the part it first hits. Then it goes to our rational, our frontal lobe for rational processing, and we start making now some logical reasoning. But by then, the emotions has influenced us up to a point. Some people are better at regulating their emotions and then managing it through the rational processing. Others are not. Let me give you an example how this happens. If you are where you're sitting now and you hear a big bang or fire, what is the first thing you do? You jump out. Your emotions tell you this part of your limbic system, fight or flight, fight or flight. Okay, do something about it. And usually we flight, we jump, we run away. When we see something scary happening, we don't even think about it. Then later on we think, oh my God, it wasn't as big as we thought. Because this is the fastest part of our brain that takes information in through 5 senses. This is the slower part. So eventually this is affected by whatever has happened here. So in reality, as I said, it's impossible to make decisions without any emotions. So another aspect of managing individuals, we need to see what motivates them. Okay, some of these motivational theories are American, Western motivational theories. There might be different views and aspects from different cultures. One of my famous theories that I like to show always is the Herzberg hygiene factors. What basically Herzberg says is the poor pay and the company policy and continual pressure, which is the workload that you have, creates what he calls the hygiene factors. If they are not there, okay, if these are all bad, people are dissatisfied. So you have to make sure there is a good pay, not maybe not extremely good, but okay, a company policy and continual pressure. By the way, in the USA, actually, a high pay is a motivator. A good pay is a motivator rather than a hygiene factor. In Europe, we like to have work-life balance. So if we are paid a reasonable pay and we have a work-life balance, that there is no a lot of pressure and the company policy is good, we might be motivated, we might be here above level. But in the US, you have to get paid a lot more, to be motivated. And the motivators aspect are actually the variety of work, being recognized, and feeling sense of achievement. Okay, again, this is culturally different in different parts of the world. You might have to look at your own culture, at your own people. What motivates the individuals? Even if you have to ask them, what motivates you? But make sure at least the pay, the policy, and the workload is reasonable. So at least they are satisfied, if they are not dissatisfied. If you want them highly motivated, then you have to look at the other aspects of motivational issues, okay? So as I said, it varies from one country or from one culture to another, I'll say not country. And then you have to look at it where your motivators are and where your hygiene factors are. And once you look at them, you need to maintain and deal with them. Another one is when you're dealing, when you're working with individuals and managing them with your subordinates, you have to remember you are giving them responsibility and authority, but accountability comes back to you. The accountability comes back to you. Eventually, whatever happens in your organization, the top person is responsible. The manager, the leader, the CEO, the director, whatever it is, they are accountable but you have to give responsibility and authority when you're dealing with your subordinates. So, most important thing in managing individuals effectively is understanding the individual, their emotions, their strengths, their weaknesses, what makes them happy, what are the hygiene factors, what are the motivating factors, and so on. Build trust and respect. We talked about quite a lot about trust and respect. And this set clear expectations that came in on part of the delegation earlier on. Provide regular feedback. That's another important aspect. I notice I have a numbering problem here, but okay. So number 5 will be foster open communication. That came up earlier on as well. Thank you. Someone mentioned it. Develop the individual strengths. Don't only focus on their weaknesses and try to, okay, but what are they good at? And what can they do more better about from their strengths? You know, like someone said, catch them while they're doing something good. Tell them what their strengths are. Develop their strengths more. Focusing on their weaknesses will not help you a lot unless it's something disastrous. Okay? Compensate their weaknesses by bringing somebody who has a strength, but work on their strengths. Empower and delegate. We talked about earlier about delegation. And adapt the leadership style that is required with that individual or for that task. Don't have a fixed style of management with everything, with everyone, and for every task. Usually, as we grow, as we get experience, we tend to adapt our leadership styles. But at early managerial level, we have a fixed style. Okay, you have to be aware not everything needs the same style. Not everyone works the same style. If somebody is highly emotional and they like to see concern for people, try to work with them in that area, and then maybe try, and once you understand them, you might want to shift them to concern for production, and vice versa. But each one has their own strengths. Okay, they have their own blind spots. And based on that, you have to adapt your leadership style. You can't manage people if you're not a good listener. And I think somebody said earlier on, I think it was Abdul Qadir said, you know, they have to lean on you. They have to trust you. They have to share with you something that they might have trouble for support. Okay, and it would be a betrayal if you share that confidential information. Give them space. Be a good listener. There are a lot of things here about active listening, and I will talk about it a lot on Monday, inshallah, as part of communication thing. But an active listening here, using open questions, summarizing what you've heard, observing the body language, you know, trying to sort of avoid interruptions, any distractions, always reflect back, show them you're interested in what they are saying, probe them, okay, and to get more information. Avoid any prejudice or bias you might have about the individuals, okay, and listen to their feelings and clarify what needs to be. Share success with them, share success about individuals, share success about teams. Celebrate. Okay. The problem is we are always too quick to judge and get to decisions, forgetting the person we manage has feelings and we ignore their interest, focusing only on the organization or our interest. You'll find this is more for people who have concern for production. If you have concern for production, you ignore their personal feelings. Okay, you ignore what they're focusing, what they're interested on. Are you giving them a variety of jobs, or is it boring? Okay. Another one, looking at individuals when you're managing them, there is a relationship between performance and trust that you have to look at. A person with high performance and low trust is here, and you have to be careful. And this will be destroying your organization values. But you might be keen to see the performance, and then you might think that it would be a great thing to have this person. But what you don't realize is that this individual is also destroying your organizational culture. So you need to cross them out, or I'll come to the next slides, what we need to do with them. But somebody with medium performance and high trust should be more preferred than somebody with high performance and low trust. So if you give me two individuals, I would choose high trust and medium performance rather than a low trust and high performance. Obviously, if somebody is high on performance and high on trust, then they are role models, and that will be the ideal people that I want in my organization. The reality is that we're not going to have everybody here, then we have to see where they fit in. I'll come to this that is linked to the previous slide. This is called the GE grid. GE grid stands for the General Electric. It was developed by Jack Welch. It did a lot of things for General Electric, and obviously was one of the most successful companies in his time. And he developed this grid to say actually that every year they assess every individual in the organization with what in terms of they bring in terms of the results of delivery, basically, are they delivering the results the organization needs? And then how fit their behaviors are with the organization values. Obviously, highly fit with organization values or low, and then you have high results delivery and low delivery. Again, similar to the previous slides, we have here our role models are high on performance and high on values. And we have people that are with low performance and low values. Anybody with low performance, low values should not stay in the organization even 1 minute. Kick them out, get them out. They are in the exit. But somebody who is a high performer but low on values, provide them a second chance, give them some coaching, and see if they can improve. If not, after the second chance, you bring them to the exit. Similarly, the brother or sister, very nice. They fit all our values. They are amazing. However, their performance is low. Train them. Earlier on, I think somebody asked, I remember, how do we do about the behavior and skills? The skills, you train them. Behaviors, you coach them. Give them a second chance. They move up. They're hopefully not necessarily inside the box, could be somewhere here, that we are happy. Otherwise, get them to the exit and move on. And this is one of the difficult things that people need to do. Let me ask you questions, then I'll come to the next one, because the next one is a bit more complicated. I need to explain it. But any reflection, anybody wants to share or ask questions? Okay. This GE grid slide is usually used by individual managers or bosses on their own, and you can plot your people even when you go away from this training, bring in the names and put them wherever you want, and then put a personal plan for them. Do I need to train them? Do I need to coach them? And then, or do I need to get them out of the way because they are low on value and low on performance? However, when we come to the calibration model, which is very similar to the previous slide, this one has 9 grids instead of 4. And this one has clear description on terms of the values and performance, values being on the side here. This one is done by the management team about their direct reports. It's not by one individual, but as a team, at least once a year or twice a year, you plot the individuals on the grid, and then you develop an implementation plan. So you have here in terms of their performance between being low and high, consistently low, consistently high, sorry, consistently high, consistently low, or somewhere in the middle. And then the values consistently demonstrating high values, or they do not consistently demonstrate organizational values. And what happens is that I could say, okay, Abdullah is here, and my colleague will say, no, Abdullah is not here. Abdullah should be here or should be down. And then we debate, and everybody debates it, and then you put them wherever they should be. It could be have in the corner here or whatever. But this is a calibration. Is calibrated means basically everyone in the management team has given a feedback about those individuals, and they are plotted. And then a year later, after you put your personal development plan for them, you monitor how they performed, and they move up or down in the grid. Okay. Any questions before we move on setting goals, which is, I think, will be our last session?
Okay, I think I was using a headphone. Maybe the mic doesn't work. Basically, if you go back, not this, the slide, which the previous one. Yes, this one. Now here, of course, our training, we are focusing on non-for-profit organizations.
Yes.
And many of us depend on volunteers.
Yeah.
So I think we should take in mind that we are not in a company. For example, we will find people who are in which are fit with the organization value very high, but in terms of results delivery, very low.
Yeah.
This kind of people, you will find them that they work and they volunteer for many years, continuously, non-stop. Can you move them to the exit and get rid of them? Or in terms of the voluntary sector, we need to take into other aspects, to look at into other aspects as well.
Okay, it's a good question. It depends what standard you want in your organization. You know, sometimes that's why sometimes charities and not-for-profit organizations are seen by others as a low standard performance. You know, if somebody does very bad in a company, then look, this is not a charity. Okay, low standards are not tolerated here. This is not a charity. You know, so you have to be careful between maintaining the spirit of volunteerism and other things, and somebody because he's been there for a long time. By not putting them through the exit, what you're doing is that you are now setting the standard for your organization. Now, if that's what you want to do and that's how you're deliberately doing it and you're aware, that's fine. But you just have to be careful what you're trying to do. And the perception that charities are not professional, they don't have a high standard because they actually tolerate mistakes, they tolerate low performance. That is something you have to be careful and you have to be aware of. But if you're aware and you're happy with it, then that's fine. Let's go first. I think Naser Jibril was first, and then we'll go to Mustafa Adam. Naser Jibril.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much. My question is on the situation where in an organization, we have trained the staff concerned or the volunteer concerned, and he moves up to provide better result. But in terms of value and trust, and he is still found wanted. His capacity has been built so he can perform better and deliver. But in terms of honesty, in terms of commitment, we're still not satisfied. Is it okay to move such person to exit despite the likely cost of training the person, which could be very high, depend on the capacity that was built? I think this is my question.
Okay, if Dr. Nasruddin, if we take the next question and we have a break, then you start with the answers.
Okay, Bismillah. Okay, Mustafa.
Okay, thank you. My question is related to the first speaker, the guy who asked, before the guy was the brother who was speaking right now. Yes, a group of voluntary people who are scattered, around the globe, working for the well-being of their community. But just they are on the media. They are not in one place, and they don't meet. Face to face or physically. It's only on the media, whether it is on Zoom, whether it is on WhatsApp, whatsoever. So how would all the theories that so far we have covered would be implemented on them, or is it a different way of dealing with such a group of people?
Yeah, okay. I think let's take a break then, as Brother Abdul Qadir said, and we'll come back after 10 minutes, Abdul Qadir.
Okay. Until we resume, there's no harm in having some discussion. Of course, until the people come, there's an issue which is we tried, as I said, to accommodate all the participants, and we can see we are from different countries, and as a result we have maybe to adjust and have break from time to time, sometimes which is convenience to some group and not convenient to others. Anyway, I think we tried our best to accommodate and be reasonable in the way that we have conducted our session today. However, we ask you kindly later on to give us your feedback so that we can build on it and improve what's remaining of the course. Also, the course that we are enjoying today, you will find professional and higher education students learn this kind of materials. So also we have the intention, that's how, by the way, that's how we build our knowledge and experiences. We have the experience maybe of working in voluntary sectors or non-for-profit organizations. But I think we just go and deliver whatever we have and we learn some skills. But from what I saw, even I've been involved in so many training and in so many organizations and being engaged in the community sector for quite a long time. I found the materials that we have gone through today enriching and very beneficent to a good degree. So this is the value that we are having, and for that I thank Brother Nasruddin and the other trainers who have got some valuable materials to share with us. Go through the brochure so that we are aware what kind of knowledge we are going to gain by the end of this course. Now I hand it, inshallah, to Brother Nasruddin to carry on from here. Welcome back, all of you.
Okay. I just want to say one thing. I think maybe I should have made it clear right at the beginning. What I'm sharing with you is our tools, frameworks that are used in a variety of places in the private sector and in the third sector, or what we call the non-for-profit organizations. You have to make the decision which tools or frameworks to use and when to use them and how to use them. You do not have to use all of them in one go. You do not have to use them, all of them in certain places, some of them that you might be aware, but you don't need them now, you need them in the future. And you have to look at your own context. You need to look at your own priorities and values. Like Brother Abdul Qadir said, okay, but somebody's been working for a long time, but we know their performance is low, but as a community, we want to keep everyone happy. That's concern for people, as an example, that's fine. But you are making deliberate decision in terms of how you want to run your organization, what type of culture you want, what type of people you want. So all these models are for you to use as you need them, as and when you need them. It's not something you apply tomorrow, everything. I wouldn't even recommend that you apply everything tomorrow. It takes time. You have to take your people with in a journey. The other question that was asked is, how about people who are working remotely? They are our colleagues, and we just happen to engage with them on Zoom. It is up to you again. Use the model as you see it fit. Even if you can come up with a new model, new framework that fits with you, modify it, do it. Okay. This, at the end of the day, as you say, this is not Quran. These are people who have had experience, and they use them, and they were quite useful, and they became well known in the management sector. But it doesn't mean they are the only ones you need to use. I think most important thing is that you know your organization, you know where it's leading, you know the culture you want, and based on that, use those tools as you see them fit. If people are joining on Zoom, maybe are they your peers? Maybe just have representatives in different countries. And maybe that's not your power to remove them, or you don't have a replacement. That's fine. But sometimes you might be worried to replace someone with a low performer and high on values. But you might not know that you might be missing that somebody with high values and high performance can replace them. But you know your context better. You know you need to decide based on your context, based on the people, and based on the culture you want. So before I move on, any other comment or questions? Okay, let's move on now. Last part is, look, whether it's for yourself or for your team, setting goals is one of the most important things to do, especially when you're managing individuals. Now, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. You cannot have a goal that is in your mind that nobody else sees, that nobody else understands. It has to be there and again. The second part is, remember, many people, especially those people who are focused and concerned for people and they think they are motivating people, they would say, look, do your best, get me your best. But what's the difference between do your best and setting goals for them, getting goals for yourself? And research has shown that people who set goals are more successful than those who do not set goals for themselves or their organizations. Not having goals does not motivate anyone, because you don't know how far you have gone. You don't know how much you need to stretch. You don't know how much resources you need to put in. You don't know whether you're late or early in achieving your goals. And the research has shown actually there is a linear relationship between the degree of goal difficulty and performance. Basically, what it means is the more difficult the goal is, the better the performance is. So let me give you an example. If I ask you to jump for 1 meter, it's easy. You can close your eyes and just step. If I ask you to do 2 or 3 meters, you might start thinking about it and put a bit more effort. If I ask you to jump 5 meters, now you might even look at your shoes, whether you change them, whether you need to step back and then jump. You will put a lot more effort. Your brain will work much harder to find the solution. How do I do 5 meters jumping? The same way, when a goal is difficult, but not too difficult, okay, our brain will work harder to improve performance. So having a goal and having it slightly difficult improves the performance of individuals. In fact, it's been related that performance of participants with the highest goals was over 250% than those with the easiest goals. So even when the goal is high, meaning there is a level of difficulty, their performance was better than those who had easy goals. So it's important when we are setting our goals, we do not give easy tasks for ourselves, for our individuals. There have to be some goals that are stretch goals. Stretch goals are, they have a level of difficulty that push the individuals or ourselves to our limit, to our potential to do better than what we are doing. Another important part is that if you have a goal, write it down. If you do not write it down, you do not have a goal. All you have is your wish. I do not believe goals that are not written, because they are erased easily in memory and they are replaced by something else, and we fool ourselves. I'll give you an example. You're from different parts of the world, so you might know Subway, you might not know Subway, you might know the Subway. Obviously, the guys in the US and Western Europe will know them, but in some parts of the world, you might not have a Subway. A Subway is just a restaurant, a fast food restaurant that sells sandwiches. In the 1990s, every napkin that you see on the left-hand side used to have the following words: 10,000 stores by 2001. 10,000 stores by 2001. And a professor of influencing from one of the universities, I forgot, in the US, asked the CEO and the founder, who cares whether you have 10,000 or 50,000 stores, that you put them in your napkin? People will buy your product in the US for the quality of the product, for the service, for the price, not how many stores you have. His answer was very simple. I write it down as my commitment. If I don't write it down, I will not do it. And I want the whole world to know that I want 10,000 stores by 2001. His vision was, if I write it down, if I make a commitment, I will have to implement it. By 2021, he had 38,000 stores in 111 countries. That's a massive growth. So he exceeded his 10,000 by 2001 and then continued to develop to 38,000 stores in 111 countries. So that is the importance of making a commitment and putting it in writing. So the benefits, goals push us forward. They bring out the best in us. They help us to believe in ourselves. They clarify our long-term vision and they make us accountable. Yeah. When I put a goal in writing, when everybody knows, and when my direct reports, I write their objectives, their goals, then everybody is accountable. It does motivate us. It gives us that energy to do something a bit more. And obviously, it helps us to live our life to the fullest. Some roadblocks for achieving our goals. If the goal is unrealistic, it's too difficult, it's impossible to achieve. Or we have too many goals without realizing we are setting ourselves or our direct reports with too many goals. And they eventually said, which one you want me to do? Lack of focus on a particular goal, which is similar to the previous one. Lack of time management, okay? When we are not managing our time properly, when we do not know our priorities, when we do not monitor our progress, we do not analyze, when we do not have performance management, okay? And when you have a negative approach towards obstacle, okay, we put this goal and there are some obstacles, challenges, we give up quickly instead of saying, let's find a way of resolving this issue or overcoming the obstacles. So I'm going to give you a small exercise to do individually. Be ready. This exercise is called the average perfect day. The average perfect day. So what it is a goal that you need to write, and it should be a day that you would relive over and over again. So the average perfect day is a day that you would relive over and over again without getting bored, exhausted, or overwhelmed. So for you to write down, or what are the 2 steps you can take immediately to start having your average perfect day? Okay, what are the 2 steps you can take immediately to start having your average perfect day? I'll give you 2 minutes to write down. So remember, I'll go back this. Your average perfect day is a day that you can relive over and over again without getting bored, exhausted, and overwhelmed. And what are the 2 steps you can take immediately to start having your average perfect day? Okay, we are getting some. Plan and organize, set today's plan, write the task in the morning, hire a helping hand, set my goals for the day and plan how to achieve them. MashaAllah. Okay, share your goals if you want in the chat. Okay, my questions to everyone who wants to say is, how did you find the exercise? More important than your goal is I want to know about the exercise. Set my targets, manage my time properly. MashaAllah. Anyone who wants to share a reflection? How did you find the exercise? Okay, let's go to Dr. Muhammad Idris, and then we'll go to Mustafa Adam.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. I love the exercise, and especially the note about the 10,000 stores by Subway. Whenever you write, it's in your sight. It's also a commitment that you feel that people will hold you accountable on. So if you hide something and you don't put it out there, you can always go back. But if you put it out there, you feel always that there is a commitment that you have to achieve. This reminds me with Microsoft old vision statement where they said, a computer in every desk for everyone or something like that.
Yes.
And this was in 1990s, I think. And now you can see that their vision become a reality. Thank you.
True. Yes, Bill Gates said that a computer on every desk and every home. Yeah, and we have a computer in our hand and with kids now. MashaAllah. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Idris. Mustafa Adam.
Yeah, this exercise was very enlightening and interesting. And it has to do all with planning and organizing. First of all, planning, because as they say, if you don't have your own plan, always you do other people's plan. And then the organizing and also managing the time, all these are, I mean, the basis of success and in any business.
Yeah, mashallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Good, good. Okay, any other reflections? Thank you, Brother Mustafa.
You're welcome.
So there are quite few people goes at then, and few people have joined or left. Okay, so the last part I want to say is when you're setting your goals, make sure your goals at least meet these criteria that we have on the screen. Okay. SMART objectives. SMART stands for specific. Okay, state exactly what you want to accomplish, who, what, where, and why. Measurable. How will you know that you have achieved it? Okay, how you will demonstrate and evaluate the extent to which the goal has been met? 70%, 80%, how would you know? Okay, achievable, something which is, I spoke earlier on, has to be a bit of a stretch, has some level of difficulty, has challenging goals with the ability to achieve the outcome. And what is the action-oriented web? Okay, and then the relevance is how does the goal tie into your key responsibilities or into your job description or into your role or into the strategy? And how is it aligned to objectives? And then time bound, by when? You can't just have a goal that has no ending. So by a specific date, set one or more target date that by when to guide your goal successfully and timely. And this is important to do, because if your objectives or your goals are not SMART, then you're missing a key element to measure it and to know whether you have achieved it or not. I like someone saying not planning is a plan for failure. Failing to plan is a planning to fail. That's something nice, good, mashallah. We have come to the end of today's program, and I will hand over to Brother Abdul Qadir if he wants to create further discussions and Q&A reflections. But from myself, thank you very much. You've been great. You engaged a lot. There are quite few people that have not spoken, and there are a few other people who've been engaging. Hopefully tomorrow I want to see more engagement with everyone, from everyone. But otherwise, it's been nice having you all. And jazakumullah khairan wa barakallahu fikum. Over to you, Abu Omar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brother Nasruddin, for the very informative presentation or series of lecture, or name it whatever you like. 4 hours, it's quite a long time, maybe sitting down and following lecture, but the way that you have handled it, engaging us, putting our questions, allowing us to answer, and answering to our questions as well. It has been, it made the session more engaging and interesting. And as previously they asked to share the materials, I found it very informative, and I think it will have an impact on my profession as well. And I intend to go through it. By the way, this is the way that we learn, and this is the way that we build our portfolio and experiences. So make the most of this useful sessions that we are trying to organize. On behalf of you, I would like to thank Brother Nasruddin and the rest. And from my side also, I would like to thank you for your engagement and sharing your experiences as well. Now it's up to you to, it's a question and answer session for about 20 minutes. you have the right to talk about reflection or putting questions, but when you are talking, not exceed 2 minutes so that we could have more people to participate. Priority to those who have got questions.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. تفضل أخي
I think it is, no, I think it is very nice lecture, or very interested and very useful. But I think time's long, no, 3 hours for with our I mean time, it's too long. No? So I don't know another lectures how you do that. No? It's 3 hours too much for us. But the lecture is interesting. So this is why I left all my work and hear that. So I hope coming time to be 1.5 hours or something like that. Thank you.
Excellent. A point taken. As I said, of course, valid point what you have mentioned. As I said, it was planned to small groups and workshops, different rooms where there are a lot of interaction, and direct maybe talking about your specific organizations. If you have any things that you need maybe to discuss it or to assist you to put scenario which is very relevant to each organization. But as I said, we have to adjust the setting in order to accommodate the high demand. I think Hussein Hashimi, yes, go on.
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, and this is a very interesting lecture and a good job done by Dr. Nazi. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be part of this wonderful program. My questions is on the responsibility and tax. Rightly said by Doctor that you must hand over or commit responsibility to your direct employee, direct reporting, and not tax. Now, my question is, that is a saying that responsibility are not committed to a lazy hand. For a new employee that has just joined your team, that is still on the process of coaching, will you advise that you hand over a responsibility to that person, or you groom that person by committing some simple tasks to it? And by the time the person has matured to a level of some confidence, you can now begin to hand over responsibility to him. Or you advise that from the start, you hand over responsibility to that person and you correct every mistakes along the way until you become a perfect person. What approach will you advise for a team?
Okay, thank you. I think the first phrase you said was responsibility should not be given to a lazy person, something like that. Yeah, I get worried because that already have set a mindset about that individual. So everything you do is based on that mindset, on that perception. Okay, so either you believe that everyone is willing to do good and they want to do their best, or you think people are lazy. And depending on that, your approach is different. You have a certain emotional state and perception about that individual, and that will influence how you manage them and how you delegate the task. Now, whether that individual is that's one point that I just want to say. The second part is whether the individual is a new employee, new graduate, a teenager, an intern, or someone slightly experienced. I think the level of responsibility can vary, but I strongly believe giving responsibility rather than just tasks. And so why we are trying to do this and what the outcome is needed is very important. It could be somebody can be, if somebody completely inexperienced, can be accompanied by somebody experienced, or they do it together, or you do it together with them. When I show the empowerment continuum from a leader to a partner to supporter to full empowerment, you can do it with them. You can get somebody to work with them, but it's very important to know what you're trying to achieve rather than just doing that small task and coming back. Having said that, you are the best judge about the individuals. Okay, if you have tried them so many times and it hasn't worked out, you might have to try different things. It might not be their fault. It might be the way you are handing over responsibility. But these are general guidance, general advice, and frameworks. You adapt them to the individuals, as you said. But just have the most important things, have the mindset that everyone is willing and ready to do their best. You have to have that mindset to approach the delegation aspect of it. Otherwise, you will not delegate, or you will be reluctant when you delegate.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you very much for this very wonderful and educative lecture. We actually have benefited from this, and we say a big jazakumullah khairan to that. I want to reflect on something that was said by Sheikh on, the point number 5 or number 6 on how to manage individuals. Something was mentioned there, foster open communication. This is actually very, very important, and it counters the concept of power distance that tend to exist within, an organization where the staff or the employees may not have that courage to, contribute or tell truth to power. So this is very key and very important. And maybe when sharing this knowledge, these two things need to be, considered very important, the concept of power distance and truth to power. Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture.
MashaAllah, thank you. Yeah. Power distance, you start mentioning Hofstede. Okay, good. Okay, anyone else?
Ustad Mustafa Adam.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank Education First for giving us this chance. And I also would like to thank Dr. Naser for this very interesting, fruitful, and live session. So I would say just thank you. I don't have any questions, so I have asked many questions already. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And thanks to you for your engagement. Of course, the training, we tried to touch upon all the aspects that we need to be aware of in the non-for-profit organizations. However, it's relevant also to the private sector and the government sector. There are so much relevancy between what we are studying and maybe the other sectors as well.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Tafadhal.
Hayakumullah. I am really very grateful. This is it's a very good opportunity. And also Dr. Naser, mashallah, when he presents, and also just as if it is offline, it's not online, as if it is online, and it was very interactive. I really appreciate that. I hope we will look forward maybe to do things together. For example, we are as well as an Impact Makers Foundation. We are a training and research foundation. So we need pupils like Dr. Naser and other resource for person. So maybe we can, Ethiopia Education First might be a bridge, to connect us with another resourceful persons worldwide as well, so that we can benefit from each other and do things better, because and according to our religion as well, Islam, it loves, itqan. We have to always strive to achieve excellence in our movement. So I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.